Chapter 247. Reincarnation does not permit you either thinking it over. Guwen decided to use the Heavenly Residence Sword. The Heavenly Residence Sword was a divine sword gifted to him by Li Ye, one of the 3 Emperor Swords of the Taizong dynasty. Although the Emperor Sword was not very useful to him now, the elegant form of the Heavenly Residence Sword made it worth using. Guwen also thought of Lu Lingjun, who wielded 2 swords in battle, and felt that he could try using a 2-handed sword as well. He had no pressure dealing with the 6 Stars Cave and 7 Stars Cave of the 7 Star Spirit Realm. Guwen went downstairs and made his way to Lu Jujia, who quickly saluted him and introduced 2 new disciples. The 2 servant disciples were very nervous in front of Guwen, not like Li Ye and Meng Lang, who were impatient with Cheng Shendan and Zhang Chunqiu back in the day. The current status of the supreme sect in the Taizong dynasty was far beyond what it was 100 years ago, now being the top sect in the continent's immortal cultivation world, second only to the legendary Holy Land. Guwen did not adhere strictly to the rules but instead gently encouraged the 2 new disciples, leaving them pleasantly surprised. After he left, the 2 disciples were filled with anticipation for their upcoming life in the Mystic Valley. Guwen did not head to the 3rd Medicine Valley but walked towards the mountains and forests outside the valley. He appreciated the scenery along the way and realized it had been many years since he last experienced the surroundings of the Mystic Valley on foot. Back then, he raced around the mountains with Xiaochuan, and life was carefree. To feel such nostalgia after just over 100 years, imagine what it will be like in 10,000 years. Guwen suddenly thought, then adjusted his emotions, preparing to invade the 7 Stars Spirit Realm. Today, the 7 Stars Spirit Realm was about to undergo a significant change, presenting the perfect opportunity for him. Sunlight poured into the courtyard where Ji Chenkuan and numerous members of the Ji family stood, chatting and laughing. A number of cultivators floated in the distant sky, each like an immortal, showcasing their unique styles. This Ji mansion, located atop a solitary mountain, covered an area of over 10 miles. Thick fog swirled below the mountain, resembling a vast ocean, with peaks emerging from the sea of clouds, akin to immortal Taoist practice grounds. The sea of clouds stretched endlessly, as if this place truly was above the 9 heavens, with the sun directly overhead. Ji Hantian leaned against the courtyard door with his arms crossed in front of his chest and eyes closed. Judging by his furrowed brows, his mood was not good. Ji Chenkuan came to Ji Hantian's side, smiling. "Grandpa, the auspicious hour is near. Why don't you go outside to greet the Luo family?" Ji Hantian opened his eyes, snorted coldly, and left with a flick of his sleeve. Ji Chenkuan did not get angry. He knew Ji Hantian had objections regarding the 7 Stars Spirit Realm, but since it concerned the family's prosperity, Ji Hantian would choose to endure. Now that the Supreme Sect was thriving, the Ji family had stopped insisting on Ji Hantian leaving the sect. In fact, they started to support him again, seeing another avenue as beneficial. Ji Chenkuan turned back to see Ji Xiaoyu's door adorned with joyous decorations. The sight eased his uneasy heart slightly. Every time he thought of Ji Xiaoyu's words that night, he felt restless and upset. Dong. The loud sound of a gong echoed through the heavens and the earth. A beam of golden light swept in from the horizon, rapidly landing in front of the Ji mansion's gate. The sounds of hooves and roars came from afar as 9 white horses drew a golden carriage along the golden path. 2 female cultivators, resembling fairies, leaned out of the carriage windows, holding baskets of flowers and scattered petals continuously. The petals drifted with the wind, quickly dissipating into magpies that circled in the sky. The cultivators from nearby mountains flew out of their mansions, and some jumped out of the fog below, all wanting to watch the excitement. What a grand spectacle, as expected of the Luo family. I heard Luo Yetian has broken through to the Mahayana realm. Is it true? It should be true. Entering the Mahayana realm after just over 500 years is indeed terrifying talent. Ji Xiaoyu of the Ji family is not simple either. It's said she was born with a primordial Taoist talisman and great fortunes. She is a perfect match for Luo Yetian. With the Ji family allied with the Luo family, they are set to rise. If they produce an immortal, it would be even more remarkable. They might even cultivate in the 5 Stars Cave in the future. Each mountain belonged to a different family, but these families were at the lower end of the 7 Star Spirit Realm, incomparable to the Luo family, hence their envy of the Ji family's fortune. At the end of the Golden Path, numerous cultivators rode on magic artifacts, flying in a grand procession that stirred the clouds. They swiftly landed by the Golden Path, stretching all the way to the Ji Mansion's gate. Glancing around, there were at least 1,000 cultivators, all with imposing auras and dressed in golden robes. The 9 horse-drawn carriage halted at the gate. The curtain opened, and an imposing man in a red robe stepped out. He was tall and handsome, with long hair tied in a lotus jade crown, resembling a star lord descended from the heavens. His eyes shone brightly as if they contained the universe. Seeing him disembark, the Ji family cultivators hurriedly stepped forward to greet him. Luo Yetian smiled and asked, "Sister Yu, are you ready?" He had been busy in seclusion, only meeting Ji Xiaoyu once. Sensing the innate aura of the primordial Taoist talisman within her and admiring her exceptional beauty, he had his family propose the marriage. He barely needed to lift a finger. Just one word from him was enough. And as he expected, the Ji family agreed without hesitation. He chose this year precisely because he had just reached the Mahayana realm. In previous years, his mind was solely focused on advancing to the Mahayana realm, and Ji Xiaoyu was merely a thought, not worth occupying his entire mind. An elder of the Ji family smiled and said, "She is ready and can depart any time." Luo Yetian nodded. Our Luo family has already invited all the major families from the 6 Stars Cave and the 7 Stars Cave, and even some seniors from the 5 Stars Cave to attend. This wedding will surely be grand. Rest assured, we are one family now. He spoke appropriately without arrogance, making the Ji family cultivators smile and thank him repeatedly. He looked up at the Ji mansion, anticipation showing in his eyes. He could already sense the aura of the primordial Taoist talisman. Meanwhile, in the courtyard where Ji Xiaoyu resided, Ji Chenkuan urged her from outside the door. "The auspicious hour has arrived. Don't keep the Luo family waiting," Ji Chenkuan said, knocking on the door. The door opened at that moment. Ji Xiaoyu, clad in a phoenix crown and cloud robe, stepped out accompanied by 2 female cultivators. The veil covered her face, revealing only a snow-white chin, and her hands were clasped before her stomach, comporting herself with grace. Seeing she was already in her wedding attire, Ji Chenkuan heaved a sigh of relief and smiled. "Xiaoyu, what you worry about might not happen. There may be a turnaround. The Luo family has even invited great cultivators from the 5 Stars Cave. They might be able to help you," Ji Chenkuan said softly. Ji Xiaoyu passed by him, stopping suddenly. "Crossing this door, our father-daughter bond ends." Ji Chenkuan frowned. "What nonsense are you talking about? I will always be your father, and the Ji family will always be your home." Ji Xiaoyu said nothing more, stepping forward. Accompanied by the 2 female disciples of the Ji family, she left the courtyard. Ji Chenkuan watched her back and exhaled deeply. Over the past 3 years, he had feared any mishap in this marriage, so he had been guarding Ji Xiaoyu closely. He quickly followed, not resting assured until he delivered Ji Xiaoyu to the Luo family himself. Outside the mansion gate, a disciple hurriedly came out to inform the Ji family's higher-ups that Ji Xiaoyu was coming, causing smiles to bloom on everyone's faces. They had long heard of Ji Xiaoyu's dissatisfaction, but such was the fate of noble families, where marriages served the family's interests. During the wait, a cultivator of the Ji family asked Luo Yetian about the rumored world-destroying sea tide's validity. Luo Yetian pondered and said, "I heard it upon emerging from seclusion as well. Such rumors have spread across the seas, but the truth is uncertain. At least 100 years from now, it seems unlikely. Beyond that, no one can say." The surrounding cultivators began to murmur, discussing the matter. After a while, many cultivators from the Ji family walked out of the gate, with Ji Xiaoyu in the center, surrounded like the moon among stars. Upon seeing her, Luo Yetian smiled. Just then, Ji Xiaoyu stopped and tore off the red veil from her head, igniting it in her palm until it quickly turned to ashes. Her expression was icy cold, eyes fixed on Luo Yetian, with a faint smile on her lips. Luo Yetian felt uncomfortable under her gaze and frowned. "What do you mean by this?" The surrounding Luo family cultivators also frowned. Was Ji Xiaoyu about to oppose this marriage? "Quickly bring another red veil," the clan leader of the Ji family ordered, looking at Ji Chenkuan with a dissatisfied expression. Before Ji Chenkuan could speak, Ji Xiaoyu soared into the sky, hovering 100 meters above. The Luo family cultivators didn't stop her, curious about her intentions. Did she plan to cancel the marriage in the seven-star spirit realm? A red pattern appeared on Ji Xiaoyu's forehead, the runes of the primordial Taoist talisman. As the power of the talisman surged out, her aura transformed drastically. "You mortals disturb my rebirth process. How utterly vexing," Ji Xiaoyu said, frowning slightly. Her voice resonated through the skies, her tone coldly indifferent, making the Ji family cultivators find her unrecognizable. Luo Yetian, sensing something, ascended to her level and asked suspiciously, "Who exactly are you?" One by one, the Luo family cultivators appeared in the air, surrounding Ji Xiaoyu. The sky and sea of clouds churned, forming thunderclouds. A towering figure appeared within those clouds, like a giant god standing in outer heaven, overlooking the world. Ji Xiaoyu did not look up but calmly gazed at Luo Yetian. "Some karmic entanglements are beyond your reach. Disturbing my cultivation, even reincarnation will not pardon you." Boom! An immense pressure erupted from Ji Xiaoyu, and golden flames emanated from her forehead, rapidly forming a 100-meter-tall silhouette behind her. The figure looked exactly like her but radiated an aura surpassing the Mahayana realm. Ji Xiaoyu raised her hand, grasping at the sky. The phantom behind her mirrored her movements, shattering the thunderclouds with one hand. Within her palm, an awe-inspiring figure appeared, the same one from earlier, now filled with fear. Before he could speak, golden flames engulfed him. In an instant, he was incinerated, leaving no trace behind. Chapter 248. Heaven and Earth Flying Immortal, One Sword to Sever. Impudent! Seeing Ji Xiaoyu summon a phantom that directly annihilated the great cultivator of the Luo family. The other Luo family cultivators were instantly enraged. They each brought out their own Dharma treasures, prepared to kill her on the spot. Luo Yetian was about to speak when the phantom behind Ji Xiaoyu suddenly erupted with golden flames, sweeping in all directions. The cultivators from all directions were too late to dodge and could only instinctively use spiritual power and mana to resist. As the golden flames swept past, the entire world suddenly changed. The sky turned crimson, and countless meteors fell from the distance. Each meteor stirred up a shockwave, creating a breathtaking spectacle. Ji Xiaoyu stood high above, a trace of blood seeping from the corner of her mouth, but her brows did not knit together, remaining indifferent. The phantom behind her ignited with golden flames, and the Tao patterns on its forehead flickered with a strange light. She raised her right hand to her mouth, muttering something, and layers of golden glyphs burst forth from her body, expanding rapidly to dominate the entire sky in less than 3 breaths. "I didn't expect the primordial Taoist talisman to contain will. I wonder which ancient predecessor it is that we have disturbed?" An elderly voice rang out as an old man in a gray robe appeared, blocking in front of Luo Yetian. Luo Yetian quickly raised his hand to salute him, his demeanor respectful. The old man in the gray robe did not turn around, his gaze fixed intently on the golden phantom behind Ji Xiaoyu. "A loose immortal is not enough," Ji Xiaoyu's voice rang out once more. The gray-robed old man's face changed dramatically, and he immediately took out a jade staff. Boom! A horrifying wave of golden flames rushed towards him. The gray-robed old man used his mana to resist, but Luo Yetian behind him still felt the searing pain. This pain was not just on the surface. Even his soul felt the agony. How is this possible? Who exactly is she? Luo Yetian thought in disbelief. The Ji family members below were equally astonished. Was Ji Xiaoyu's primordial Taoist talisman really containing such terrifying power? Ji Chenkuan suddenly remembered what Ji Xiaoyu had told him 3 years ago, and a chill ran down his spine. The gray-robed old man, possessing loose immortal cultivation, couldn't withstand the vast golden flames. Blood spots appeared on his skin, as did on Luo Yishan's behind him. The other Luo family great cultivators attacked from different directions, but their mana quickly dissolved as it approached the golden flames, unable to harm Ji Xiaoyu. The mountains trembled as if they were about to collapse, startling the cultivators in their caves. More and more people flew into the sky, looking at Ji Xiaoyu in disbelief. Under their gaze, the golden phantom behind Ji Xiaoyu raised its right hand, drawing cracks across the sky with its fingertips. When her hand stopped, the space along the path shattered instantly, golden flames coiling around the edges of the space rift, forming a gigantic halo. The blood spilling from Ji Xiaoyu's mouth increased, but her eyes remained calm. The golden phantom behind her drew a giant golden fan from the halo, its surface shaped like maple leaves, covered with glyphs, as if hiding numerous worlds. As the giant golden fan descended, the world began to collapse. Space twisted and shattered, clouds dispersed, and giant peaks crumbled. The cultivators residing in this land scattered like headless flies, in extreme panic. "Retreat with the people." The gray-robed old man's voice was low and solemn as he resisted the golden flames, having transformed into a man of blood. Luo Yetian behind him was slightly better, but his skin also began to ulcerate. Luo Yetian gritted his teeth, just about to turn and leave. At that moment, the golden phantom behind Ji Xiaoyu suddenly swung the fan. A wave of burning flames swept across half of the sky, vaporizing all the cultivators along the way. Gray-robed old man and Luo Yetian couldn't escape. As the flame wave passed, both of them turned into light stars, their bodies and souls annihilated, scattering like falling sparks. This scene left the Ji family cultivators and other clan cultivators stunned and terrified. Ji Xiaoyu tilted her head, looking down at Ji Chenkuan. The Ji family cultivators were extremely tense, not daring to meet her gaze. Everyone within the Ji family knew that the family had planned to sacrifice her. She didn't truly wish to marry. With so many dead from the Luo family, how will the Ji family live in the future? Ji Xiaoyu's icy voice reached the ears of the Ji family members. Ji Chenkuan, Ji Hantian, and the others felt a chill rise from their hearts, spreading throughout their bodies. Ji Xiaoyu's eyes began to fill with blood, quickly turning blood red. "Xiaoyu, what exactly do you want to do?" Ji Hantian quickly asked. Apart from the Luo family, no other families had suffered from the golden flames, making other clan cultivators silently sigh in relief. Ji Xiaoyu's eyes, now blood red, raised to look towards the horizon. At the end of the world appeared a massive black rift from which silhouettes flew out, rapidly approaching. These figures all had an aura stronger than the previous gray-robed old man. A horrifying killing intent locked onto Ji Xiaoyu. Ji Xiaoyu raised her right hand, and the golden phantom behind her mirrored the motion with its giant golden fan. At that moment a figure appeared before her. Her eyes widened in surprise, showing clear shock despite the blood covering them. Guan, wielding the 9 extremes yin-yang body, stood before Ji Xiaoyu. He held a sword in each hand, one being the heavenly residence sword, the other the Qinghong sword, both shrouded in dark purple demonic qi, hiding their true forms. Facing the approaching great cultivators from afar, Guan casually swung his swords. The sword light illuminated the world. A streak of sword qi, like a white rainbow, swept across the sky. The great cultivators of the 7 stars spirit realm attacking Ji Xiaoyu were swallowed by the sword qi before they could even see Guan's form, turned to ash and vanished. You have successfully taken 590 years of lifespan from Luo Ku, 7th level of Loose Immortal Realm. You have successfully taken 387 years of lifespan from Taoist Jinlan, 9th level of Loose Immortal Realm. You have successfully taken 1032 years of lifespan from Lu Chongfeng, 7th level of Loose Immortal Realm. One by one, notifications appeared before Gu An's eyes. Gu turned to look at the devastated Ji Xiaoyu, deeply alarmed. The power of this primordial Taoist talisman was astonishing. It was already comparable to the wandering immortal realm. However, Ji Xiaoyu was struggling to withstand it. Her life force was fading rapidly. He spoke, "Withdraw your divine skill." He used the voice of sword Venerable Fudao, hoarse and steady. Ji Xiaoyu smiled and said, "Reincarnation has begun, and it cannot be reversed." Gu An's gaze shifted to the golden phantom behind her. He could see that the soul aura of the golden phantom was identical to Ji Xiaoyu's. This power must have originated from somewhere else, summoned rather than hidden within her. He tried a lifespan detection on the golden phantom but found nothing. "Sword Venerable, have you come specifically to assist me?" Ji Xiaoyu suddenly asked. Guan replied, "I came to annihilate the 7 stars spirit realm." Ji Xiaoyu's eyes bled as she smiled. "This life was too short, Sword Venerable. If we are fated, we shall meet again in the future." Her body suddenly burst forth with golden light and then scattered. A golden talisman appeared, absorbing the surrounding golden light into itself, and then quickly merged into the golden phantom. Gu An's gaze fell on the giant fan in the hands of the golden phantom, feeling the terrifying power within it. This treasure was no weaker than the divine exotic city, and it wasn't even a physical object, just manifested power. The golden phantom swung its fan, and an overwhelming wave of golden flames soared overhead, breaking through the heavens. The terrifying spiritual energy surged in from the minor heaven and earth outside. A burst of intense light erupted from the distant darkness, a presence beyond a wandering immortal realm approaching, extremely fast. Heaven and earth flying immortal. This heaven and earth flying immortal raised his palm to strike, intending to annihilate the golden phantom with one blow. The golden phantom immediately raised its fan to defend. Rumble, the heavens trembled, and space collapsed and twisted. Guan stood beneath the fan, looking up at the giant golden fan, filled with curiosity about this treasure. "Sword Venerable, my power won't hold for long." Ji Xiaoyu's voice sounded, tired. The golden phantom's arm trembled, the fan moving closer to Guan, unable to withstand the power of the heaven and earth flying immortal. Guan focused using lifespan detection on the heaven and earth flying immortal. Earth Gang Divine Lord, first layer of heaven and earth flying immortal realm 129080/23000/250000, a heaven and earth flying immortal who had lived for 12,000 years. Guan took a step, crossing the distance of 2 formidable powers, appearing in front of the Earth Gang Divine Lord. The Earth Gang Divine Lord's face changed dramatically, disbelief showing on his face. Sword light flashed, sword chi burst forth. With one slash, Guan annihilated the Earth Gang Divine Lord, body and soul, in an instant. The terrifying force even pushed back the Golden Phantom. The Golden Phantom, holding the giant fan, looked at Guan's back, its features changing, clearly startled by Guan's power. "I underestimated you, Sword Venerable. I look forward to meeting you again." Ji Xiaoyu's voice sounded. Immediately after, the Golden Phantom scattered, merging into the primordial Taoist talisman. The primordial Taoist talisman tore through space and quickly disappeared. Guan turned to see the Ji family cultivators retreating. Amid the crowd, Ji Hantian seemed to sense something and looked back, meeting his gaze. At that moment, Ji Hantian felt a mix of shock and guilt. He was shocked at Sword Venerable Fudeo's invincible presence in the 7 stars spirit realm, and guilt-ridden for seemingly disappointing the elder. He had always thought that the righteous path, inscribed on the heavenly repair platform, was left by Sword Venerable Fudao, hoping he could lead the supreme sect onto the righteous path. The fiery aura in the sky surged like tidal waves. A blink of an eye later, Ji Hantian could no longer see Sword Venerable Fudeo's figure. Guan took one step across space, arriving at a vast white jade square where thousands of disciples of the 7 stars spirit realm were meditating, all facing a grand palace ahead. No one noticed Guan's arrival. Guan's gaze shifted to the palace, feeling the presence of another heaven and earth flying immortal hidden within. Chapter 249. If the heavens don't take you, I will in the palace. The sound of preaching continuously echoed, immersing the cultivators in the plaza, making it difficult for them to extricate themselves. Guan, holding his twin swords, stepped forward. Against the 7 stars spirit realm, he did not intend to reach the level of exterminating everyone. He only wanted to slaughter the high-ranking members to disperse the 7 stars spirit realm on this continent. If he were to annihilate the entire 7 stars spirit realm, the surrounding major forces would undoubtedly become more wary of him, possibly drawing even stronger entities. Guan walked among the disciples of the 7 stars spirit realm. With each step, he resisted the preaching sound from the palace. The disciples behind him awakened one by one. Seeing Guan, they were startled, hurriedly got up, took out their magic artifacts and divine weapons, and prepared for battle. Guan continued to walk without looking back or pausing his steps. Who is he? What does he intend to do? I can't see through his cultivation level. We shouldn't act rashly after all. There's a divine lord stationed here. Could he be someone from the Star Sea congregations? No, this seems like the Demon Shadow Divine Skill, a cultivation technique from the Thousand Autumn Pavilion of the Taizong dynasty. I have seen it before. The one who mastered it fully is the Sword Venerable Fudao residing in the Supreme Sect. Sword Venerable Fudao. These 4 words made the disciples in the plaza tremble with fear. How could they not have heard of Sword Venerable Fudao, who even forced the Cave Master Divine Soul True Lord of the 6 Stars Cave to retreat? It was said that after that battle, the Divine Soul True Lord disappeared and no one knew where he went. There were also speculations within the 7 Stars Spirit Realm that the Divine Soul True Lord was killed by Sword Venerable Fudao. No matter the claim, the strength of Sword Venerable Fudao was something the 7 Stars Spirit Realm dreaded. The disciples in this plaza were either geniuses or nobles of the 7 Stars Spirit Realm. They knew some inside information. For example, startling immortal Lin from the Lin family died at the hands of Sword Venerable Fudao. Instantly, more and more disciples in the plaza woke up. Regardless of their high cultivation levels, none dared to approach Guan, let alone stop him. Before long, Guan arrived in front of the palace steps. Being closer, he could better appreciate the majesty of the palace, exuding a Taoist intent Guan had never felt before. This Taoist intent could make it easier for one to comprehend Taoist sorcery, indicating that the materials of this palace were not simple and might contain some powerful formation. There was only one person inside the palace, a heaven and earth flying immortal, stronger by a few degrees than the previous Earth Gang Divine Lord. It had to be known that the strongest beings in the 6 Stars Cave and the 7 Stars Cave were only in the Wandering Immortal Realm. Now, 2 heaven and earth flying immortals had emerged, indicating that the 7 Stars Spirit Realm had long been prepared. Fortunately, Guan had not rashly come before. He dared to come now because he was certain that the 7 Stars Spirit Realm did not have a carefree primordial immortal. The Star Sea congregations were unlikely to deceive him. After all, if the 7 Stars Spirit Realm had a carefree primordial immortal, how could they allow the Star Sea congregations to oppress them so? Sword Venerable Fudao. What kind of irreconcilable enmity do you have with my 7 Stars Spirit Realm? An elderly voice echoed from within the palace, resounding in this heaven and earth. Hearing his voice, the agitated disciples in the plaza calmed down one by one. This was a senior from the 5 Stars Cave, renowned overseas, surely capable of subduing Sword Venerable Fudao. Since the 7 Stars Spirit Realm had many minor heaven and earths, and they existed separately without being connected, the battle in the minor heaven and earth where the G family resided could not be felt. They were unaware that a heaven and earth flying immortal had already fallen at Guan's hands. They did not know, but the heaven and earth flying immortal inside the palace was very clear about it. Raising the demon ancestor, creating evil demons, and toying with mortals, do you still wonder if there's a grudge? Guan's voice rang out, changing the expressions of all the cultivators in the plaza. Although they had vaguely heard of it, It was still hard to accept when Sword Venerable Fudao tore away the disguise of this sin. After all, the Seven Stars spirit realm prided itself as following the righteous path. Boom! The palace doors swung open. A strong wind howled out, blowing the demonic chi on Gu and enforcing back all the disciples in the plaza. A figure walked out from the depths of the palace. A man in a feathered robe with a valiant face. A white crane's shadow swirling behind him, his whole being exuding immortal aura. He walked to the steps, looking down at Guan from above. You, covered in demonic chi, have come to seek justice in a holy land. Don't you find it laughable? The feathered robe man asked indifferently. 10,000 miles divine lord, heaven and earth flying immortal realm. Third layer 158082/26000/3100000 Gu and looked at the prompt in front of him, unmoved. He could feel that 10,000 miles divine lord was stalling for time. Several heaven and earth flying immortals were rushing over. This was precisely what Guan wanted. Guan responded, "Demon is not demon, immortal is not immortal. If the heavens won't judge you, I will." 10,000 miles divine lord laughed aloud as if he had heard a grand joke. That demon ancestor is formed from the chi fortune of heaven and earth. It can only be killed, not abolished forever. To suppress it, how many disciples of the Seven Stars spirit realm have guarded here for generations? The evil demons are vile beyond measure. To seal it, how many lives has the Seven Stars spirit realm lost? Sword Venerable Fudao, do you know how many enemies the Seven Stars spirit realm has repelled to protect the environment of this continent? How many disciples have been buried in the ocean? You only see the suffering of the mortals on the continent. But have you considered how much the Seven Stars spirit realm has sacrificed? 10,000 miles divine lord spoke vehemently, his words stirring the emotions of all the cultivators in the plaza. Indeed, others might not know, but being disciples of the Seven Star spirit realm, how could they be unaware of the Seven Star spirit realm's long-term defense of the continent? Each of them had close relatives or friends who had died in battles with ocean forces and demons. They looked at Guan with expressions full of anger, as if Guan was the sinner. Guan stood in place, quietly watching 10,000 miles divine lord. When 10,000 miles divine lord finished speaking, he suddenly asked, "The evil demons on the continent have been eliminated by me. Why, then, are there other evil demons in your hall?" The plaza fell silent instantly, all eyes fixed on 10,000 miles divine lord. 10,000 miles divine lord coldly replied, "Nonsense. Must I let you enter the hall to check?" Rumble. Rolling thunderclouds swiftly covered the sky. Vast auras descended. 10,000 miles divine lord visibly relaxed a bit. "My Seven-Star spirit realm is the holy land established by the immortal path holy court in the mortal world. How could you, an evil demon, slander it? Laughable. One who dares not reveal his true self, yet dreams of toppling the Seven Stars spirit realm single-handedly, killing our divine lord of the Seven Stars spirit realm. Today will see you eradicated without reincarnation. For hundreds of thousands of years, how many beings have been saved by my Seven Stars spirit realm? Do you think you can shake it? Whether one is righteous or demonic, it's not for you to judge." One after another, majestic and imposing voices resounded like thunder, startling the disciples in the plaza. They all looked up, their faces full of shock. Strong lights emerged from the swirling thunderclouds, piercing through the sea of clouds and illuminating the sky and earth. At the same time, snow began to fall over the continent. In the height of summer, snowflakes drifted down from the sky, causing all beings on earth to wonder. In the third Medicine Valley, the disciples stopped what they were doing and looked up at the snowflakes filling the sky. Yang Jian stood in front of the wooden railing, reaching out to catch a snowflake. It quickly melted, turning not into water, but a wisp of white gas. "This is..." Yang Jian frowned, sensing an elusive aura from the snowflake. This aura intrigued him, and he immediately reached out to grab more snowflakes. Yu Yingying, who was playing chess with an Xian, looked up, Snow in summer, what kind of omen is this? I've never seen it before, an Exian muttered. Yu Ying reached out, catching a snowflake. It turned into a wisp of white gas and dissipated. Her expression changed slightly, and she whispered, "Heavenly snowfall, snow turning to gas. This is abnormal. Could it be the legendary sign of an immortal's fall?" An Exian asked curiously, "What is the sign of an immortal's fall?" Yu Ying replied, "I've heard that when a high Tao level immortal falls, heaven and earth would produce an anomaly, as a testament to their lives' cultivation achievements. An immortal's fall? Is it on this continent or overseas?" An Exian asked curiously. Yu Ying looked up, her eyes complex, and answered, "Probably on this continent." Throughout the Supreme Sect, any cultivator exposed to sunlight was discussing this sudden anomaly in heaven and earth. Yilan also stepped out of her room and into the courtyard. She looked up with furrowed brows. Miles away, Wu Ju was similarly affected. Yet, he seemed to attain an almost mystical state, as if comprehending something. In the great Jiang dynasty in the Juhua sect, Jiang Qiong and the ghost mother of ephemera stood on the cliff's edge, reaching out to catch snowflakes. A sign of an immortal's fall. It appears the conflict between the Seven Stars spirit realm and the Star Sea congregations has reached an irreconcilable point. A high Tao level immortal has fallen, the ghost mother of ephemera said, frowning with worry. Jiang Qiong smiled. The more fiercely they fight, the better it is for us. Despite her words, she felt an inexplicable unease, as if something bad was about to happen. In the Seven Stars spirit realm, the thunderclouds spread, forming a giant vortex. A golden mirror floated in the vortex, its edges carved with patterns of various divine beasts. The mirror's surface a deep blue, surrounded by crimson flames. Immortal Path Supreme Treasure. The Seven Stars Mirror. In front of the Seven Stars Mirror, a figure floated. He wore a long purple robe, with two fiery red orbs hovering over his shoulders like suns. Behind him was a crescent moon, from which wisps of spiritual energy emanated, forming colorful clouds around him. He looked down at Gu En from above. Realm Master of Heavenly Meaning, Heaven and Earth Flying Immortal Realm, 7th Layer 187034/42000/490000 Gu En looked at this man's lifespan with slight satisfaction. In this heaven and earth, a total of 7 heaven and earth flying immortals had appeared. Besides the Realm Master of Heavenly Meaning, the cultivation levels of the others were all below the 6th layer, except for one who had reached the 5th layer of the heaven and earth flying immortal realm. With the appearance of the Seven Stars Mirror, the entire minor heaven and earth was sealed. Creatures outside could not enter, and those inside could not escape. The disciples in the plaza bore unimaginable pressure, falling to their knees and painfully gazing at the sky. The high-standing 6 heaven and earth flying immortals remained indifferent to the disciples' suffering. So did 10,000 Miles Divine Lord in front of the palace doors. He took out a divine weapon, a silver spear about 10 feet long, with a black flag just below the spearhead, depicting a demonic shadow. All 7 heaven and earth flying immortals focused their gazes on Gu En. At this moment, Gu En seemed to be resisting the entire heaven and earth. Chapter 250 Arrogant Sword Venerable, do you still have reinforcements? The divine light of the Seven Stars Mirror was so brilliant, illuminating the expressions of all the disciples of the Seven Stars Spirit Realm on the square. At this moment, the disciples of the Seven Stars Spirit Realm also realized that something was wrong. The high and mighty heaven and earth flying immortals seemed to be preparing to abandon them. For a while, cries, pleas for mercy, sobs, and curses kept ringing out. But Gu En, who was being stared at by the 7 heaven and earth flying immortals, was looking at the 2 treasure swords in his hand. The Realm Master of Heavenly Meaning looked down at Gu En and asked, "Do you have anything else to say?" Sword Venerable Fudeo's origins were mysterious, and he could even slay heaven and earth flying immortals. So the Realm Master couldn't help but feel some dread. He feared that there might be even more terrifying beings standing behind Sword Venerable Fudao, so he didn't act immediately. If he had no backing, He would not let Sword Venerable Fudao go today. Guan raised his head, looked up at the 6 heaven and earth flying immortals in the sky, and asked, "Are your people all here, or do you still have reinforcements?" As soon as these words were spoken, the faces of the 7 heaven and earth flying immortals all changed dramatically. Arrogant. They had lived for hundreds of thousands of years and had never seen such an arrogant person. With the immortal path supreme treasure overhead and 7 heaven and earth flying immortals working together, could he dare to be so arrogant? The realm master of heavenly meaning thought of many possibilities in an instant. He even thought that Sword Venerable Fudao might be at a higher realm than the heaven and earth flying immortals, but then he dismissed the idea, thinking how could such an ethereal existence be hiding in a small corner of this continent? Shouldn't he go to outer heaven to seek the opportunity for the great Tao? Feeling the power of the 7 stars mirror, the realm master of heavenly meaning's eyes flashed with fierceness. Even if someone surpassed the heaven and earth flying immortal realm and killed so many great cultivators of the 7 stars spirit realm, this matter could not be let go. He immediately raised his hand. The 7 stars mirror, as high as 10,000 feet, trembled violently, bursting out with even more terrifying pressure. The voices of all the disciples of the 7 stars spirit realm on the square came to an abrupt end, and they desperately felt their skin ulcerate and their flesh dissolve. At this moment, a vast power enveloped them, removing the torture they were enduring. They couldn't help but widen their eyes, looking subconsciously for the source of this power, and their gaze fell on Guan. "Have you recognized it now? Is this the Holy Land you think it is?" Guan's voice rang out, making the faces of the disciples of the 7 stars spirit realm look complicated. They were all the talented disciples of the 6 stars cave and 7 stars cave, believing they had a great role in bearing the future of the 7 stars spirit realm. Yet now, they were being abandoned by the 7 stars spirit realm without any fault of their own. How could they accept this? The 10,000 miles divine lord also flew under the 7 stars mirror. The 7 immortals worked together, their bodies bursting into light, resembling the Big Dipper, suspended under the 7 stars mirror. Their mana merged with the aura of the 7 stars mirror, making the pressure of the 7 stars mirror even more formidable. Guan looked up at them, feeling emotional. So this was the power of the immortal path supreme treasure? He felt that the power displayed by the 7 stars mirror at this moment had already surpassed that of the heaven and earth flying immortals. Even a great cultivator of the first 3 layers of the carefree primordial immortal realm would find it difficult to resist. Of course, even if a carefree primordial immortal couldn't match it, escaping would still be easy. Guan suddenly had a new idea. He asked aloud, "Gentlemen, if I shatter this dark sky, can you bring brightness to this land?" Upon hearing this, the 7 heaven and earth flying immortals frowned. The disciples of the 7 stars spirit realm on the square were all stunned. Before they could react, Guan slashed his sword. His right hand held the heavenly residence sword. His wrist rotated, with the tiger's mouth facing downwards, and the blade slashed upwards. His posture was so casual. This sword seemed to have no powerful momentum, yet as the sword slashed the sky, flames and air blasts dissipated. The 7 heaven and earth flying immortals in front of the 7 stars mirror could not evade and were directly turned to ashes. Boom! The 7 stars mirror was struck by sword chi, shaking violently. The thunderclouds above were directly cleaved, and sunlight poured down. The tens of thousands of geniuses of the 7 stars spirit realm on the square were all dumbfounded, unable to believe their eyes. They had already felt the power of the realm master of heavenly meaning and the 7 stars mirror. That was a power they couldn't even imagine or resist. Even though Sword Venerable Fudeo's mana protected them, they still thought a fierce battle would occur. But that wasn't the case. One sword to annihilate, crushing and devastating. It seemed as if they hadn't killed the strongest of the 7 stars spirit realm but rather the cloud waves in the sky. The storm swept across the world, and the fierce wind crashed through the spirit mist enveloping the mountains and rivers. One after another, the mountain forests appeared, pressed by the violent gale like turbulent waves, spectacular beyond compare. Only the 7 stars mirror remained in the sky. The 10,000-foot-high 7 stars mirror quickly withdrew its aura. The mirror body trembled for a while and then began to fall. You have successfully taken 25,709 years of life from the Realm Master of Heavenly Meaning, 7th layer of the Heaven and Earth Flying Immortal Realm. You have successfully taken 10,041 years of life from the 10,000 miles Divine Lord, 3rd layer of the Heaven and Earth Flying Immortal Realm. You have successfully taken 18,116 years of life from the Divine Lord Shaolang, 5th layer of the Heaven and Earth Flying Immortal Realm. A total of 6 messages appeared in front of Guwen, making Guwen secretly puzzled. Why was one person missing? Guwen remembered that person named Thousand-Faced Divine Lord, with a cultivation level of the 4th layer of the Heaven and Earth Flying Immortal Realm. He clearly felt that the 7 Heaven and Earth Flying Immortals all turned to ashes, and it was impossible for anyone to escape. Could it be that this person had other avatars? If so, why could he still sense their lifespan? Guwen's divine sense quickly enveloped the continent and kept expanding but couldn't find any trace of the Thousand-Faced Divine Lord. This opened his eyes. The Thousand-Faced Divine Lord was quite a character, able to escape from his hands, even more capable than the Realm Master of Heavenly Meaning at the 7th layer of the Heaven and Earth Flying Immortal Realm. Guwen suddenly gained more than 80,000 years of life. Previously, when he killed the cultivators of the Luo family, he had also gained more than 50,000 years of life. This time, he gained nearly 130,000 years of life, which was quite good, saving him months of effort. The most important thing was to eliminate potential threats. Guwen raised his hand, storing the now shrunken 7 stars mirror in his hand. He probed it with his divine sense, overbearingly destroying layers of restrictions, quickly finding the immortal spirit, and forcibly making it acknowledge him as its master. The storm in the world was still surging. The cultivators on the square looked up, remaining silent for a while before accepting the fact that they had survived. Thump! A cultivator suddenly knelt down, facing Guwen, and began to kowtow. With someone taking the lead, others followed suit and kowtowed. Over 10,000 people bowed to Guwen, making a rather magnificent scene. It is up to you to change the 7 stars spirit realm on this land. If it continues to be like before, named as a holy land but practicing evil, I will return. Then it won't be just the high-ranking members who will die. Guwen's voice rang out, and he slashed towards the palace with the Qinghong sword in his left hand. Boom! A sword chi swept out, forcefully splitting the palace into 2, immediately turning it into ashes. Such overwhelming power at his fingertips made the kneeling cultivators tremble in fear, and at the same time, they felt a fervent admiration for Guwen's sword. Venerable Fudao was not only powerful but also saved them. How could they harbor resentment? If they were to hate anyone, it would be those high-ranking members who wanted to kill them. At this moment, they all widened their eyes. As the palace turned to ashes, demons flew out. Their aura was all that of evil demons with male, female, and even demon forms. They wailed and were ultimately obliterated by the wind. Exterminating a group of evil demons did not bring Guwen any lifespan, but it gave the geniuses of the 7 stars spirit realm a tremendous mental shock. How could the Holy Land nurture so many evil demons? When they came back to their senses, Guwen's figure was already gone. A teleportation array appeared in the distant sky, and countless cultivators surged in. The genius disciples on the square were still in shock, recalling everything that had happened earlier, feeling like they were in a dream. In a dim palace, a woman in a purple dress watched as the 6 oil lamps at the highest point of the wall went out simultaneously. Her eyebrows immediately furrowed. The young ghost boy on her shoulder widened his eyes and exclaimed in shock, "Have the realm masters fallen? How is that possible?" The highest oil lamps represented the pinnacle of power in the 7 stars spirit realm. The oil lamp of the realm master of heavenly meaning was particularly large, like a moon surrounded by stars. At this moment, a figure appeared out of thin air beside the woman in the purple dress. As soon as this person appeared, he couldn't help but spit out a mouthful of blood. He immediately sat down to cultivate energy, suppressing the chaotic qi and blood in his body. The woman in the purple dress turned to look at him, her eyebrows furrowing even more tightly. Thousand-faced divine lord, what on earth happened? Why did the realm masters all fall? The woman in the purple dress asked. The person cultivating energy was none other than the thousand-faced divine lord who had escaped from Guana's hands. He was wearing a blue robe, with long hair draped over his shoulders, and his face was as delicate as a woman's. At this moment, his complexion was extremely pale, and his lips were still trembling. The Six Stars Cave was attacked, and the realm masters thought the Star Sea congregations were attacking, so they went to support. We encountered Sword Venerable Fudao from the continent. He annihilated us with a single sword. The power of the Seven Stars Mirror couldn't withstand his sword qi. The Seven Stars Mirror has now fallen into his hands. The thousand-faced divine lord said tremulously. He opened his eyes, filled with despair, and said, "He was too strong. The heaven and earth flying immortals were like dust before him. If I hadn't detected something wrong and used my divine skills to switch my main soul and avatar, I would have died too. Even so, the fall of my avatar brought me enormous backlash, and I will need to recover for the next 10,000 years." Thinking about Sword Venerable Fudeo's figure, his body couldn't help but tremble. He then looked at the woman in the purple dress and said, "Second Cave Master, the Seven Stars Spirit Realm is finished. The seven heaven and earth flying immortals are dead, leaving only you and me. With the Seven Stars Mirror in Sword Venerable Fudeo's hands, we are powerless to resist the Star Sea congregations. We need to make plans early." The woman in the purple dress was the second cave master of the Seven Stars Spirit Realm. After listening to the thousand-faced divine lord, she fell into silence. Recently, the Seven Stars Spirit Realm had been repeatedly suppressed by the Star Sea congregations. She had considered the possibility of their demise but didn't expect it to come so quickly. In just one day, seven heaven and earth flying immortals had fallen. Heaven and earth flying immortals were the foundation of the Seven Stars Spirit Realm. Plans? What plans can we have? Moreover, the gate to the divine exotic realm has already opened. Once the catastrophe descends, entangled by karma, escaping to outer heaven would be useless. The second cave master said, her gaze eerie, as if thinking about something. The thousand-faced divine lord used his power to suppress his injuries and said, "I don't care. I must leave the Seven Stars Spirit Realm. I have cultivated for tens of thousands of years and don't want my path to end abruptly. If there is something I can do to help in the future, feel free to ask. But I do not want to fight Sword Venerable Fudao again." He stood up, bowing to the second cave master, then disappeared from the spot. In the dim great hall, only the second cave master and the young ghost boy on her shoulder were left. The flickering candlelight made their shadows look like ferocious demons. Chapter 251. The world changes drastically. A huge trouble in the forest. Guan sat in meditation under a tree, leaning against the trunk, playing with the Seven Stars Mirror. The Seven Stars Mirror, which emitted an aura rivaling that of a carefree primordial immortal, became small and exquisite in his hands, looking nothing like an immortal path supreme treasure. Snowflakes fell through the gaps in the leaves, landing on him and melting into vapor. Seven heaven and earth flying immortals had suddenly fallen, causing the heavens and the earth to mourn, and snowflakes continued to fall. While holding the Seven Stars Mirror, Guan also used his divine sense to trace the primordial Taoist talisman. He was very curious about Ji Xiaoyu's ancestry and divine skills. When the primordial Taoist talisman fled, he specifically used his divine sense to follow it. Although the primordial Taoist talisman crossed the rules of heaven and earth, hiding in places unreachable by living beings, he could still track it. He noticed that the primordial Taoist talisman did not leave the continent but returned to the Ji family. However, it was not to the branch family where Ji Xiaoyu was born, but to a branch family located in the Great Zhang dynasty. Guan thought of Ji Xiaoyu's decisive appearance earlier and felt a little sentimental. He did not expect Ji Xiaoyu to go all out directly. That mysterious shadow should be her past life. Ji Xiaoyu seemed to be practicing a method similar to the primordial reincarnation skill. The difference was that while the primordial reincarnation skill accumulated chi fortune and talent through reincarnation, Ji Xiaoyu already possessed great power herself, and she could even summon this power, crossing ages and reincarnations. What would Ji Xiaoyu be like at her peak? He did not know. He just felt it was a pity for Ji Xiaoyu to fall in this life. Third miss, I hope you have good fortune in your next life and are no longer coerced by your family, Guwen thought. Seeing that the primordial Taoist talisman still remained in the Ji family, he was very puzzled about the relationship between Ji Xiaoyu and the Ji family. If it was only a relationship in this life, why not reincarnate into a different family? Perhaps he could ask the soul of the branch family, Jizhan. But after thinking about it, he decided against it. That was Ji Xiaoyu and the Ji family's destiny. Why should he interfere, and what reason did he have to investigate? Guwen treated everyone around him like this, not prying into their pasts, but cherishing their current companionship. After this battle, he looked forward to meeting Ji Xiaoyu again in the future. By then, would Ji Xiaoyu be another person or still the third miss of this life? The mirror of the 7 stars mirror reflected Gu An's handsome face. His eyes seemed to cross the vast ocean of time, reaching the other side of destiny. Guwen focused on the 7 stars mirror. This was a truly well-preserved immortal path supreme treasure, even stronger than divine exotic city. Even after being attacked by his mana, the 7 stars mirror did not develop a single crack. Instinct told him that the 7 stars mirror could become even stronger. It was just that the realm master of heavenly meaning and others could only unleash it to that level. He connected his mind with the 7 stars immortal spirit. Immediately, the 7 stars mirror began to change, its edges transforming from the shape of a divine beast to floral patterns, and its overall color turned dim. At first glance, it was just an ancient and plain mirror, nothing resembling a supreme treasure. He revealed a satisfied smile, then placed the 7 stars mirror into his bosom. He stood up, looking at the still falling heavy snow, but feeling that the sky had become brighter than before. It's time to go home. The summer snowfall lasted for 7 days. When the heavenly phenomena dissipated, news about the 7 stars spirit realm had not yet spread, but the supreme sect had already been alarmed. To be precise, the entire immortal cultivation world of the 3 dynasties was sending people to investigate, and there were even continuous streams of overseas cultivators arriving, heading for the 7 stars spirit realm. But this time, no great cultivator dared to fly over the supreme sect. A great storm was brewing. After Guwen returned to the supreme sect, he acted as if nothing had happened, occasionally checking the primordial Taoist talisman to see if Ji Xiaoyu had reincarnated. Life remained leisurely, but Guwen felt more relaxed than before. At least the 7 stars spirit realm was no more. That's right, it was going to be gone. Gu An's divine sense surveyed the ocean, seeing the cultivators from the Star Sea congregations chasing down the 7 stars spirit realm cultivators everywhere. It wasn't just the Star Sea congregations. Other major forces were also following to devour the 7 stars spirit realm's territory and chi fortune, showing him the scene of survival of the fittest. One day, someone came to visit Guwen. It was none other than the 9-fingered Divine Lord, who served as a guest elder of the Supreme Sect. Although this man was of the 2nd level of the wandering immortal realm, his maximum lifespan reached 800,000 years, and his current lifespan was 180,000 years. He suspected the 9-fingered Divine Lord had once fallen from a higher realm. When the 9-fingered Divine Lord first joined the Supreme Sect, it was Guwen who had shown him around, leading to their friendship. Chu Jingfeng was still following him for training. Under the tree, Guwen and the 9-fingered Divine Lord sat face to face, with an Xian helping to pour tea. The 9-fingered Divine Lord smiled and nodded at an Xian, then chatted with Guwen, praising him for managing the Medicine Valley in an orderly manner. Since meeting Guwen, his heart had become calm. Overseas, no matter where he went, the air was filled with scheming and power struggles, but Guwen's Medicine Valley had a sense of tranquility, and he felt this atmosphere was related to Guwen himself. He had also inquired about Guan from Chu Jingfeng, and Chu Jingfeng's evaluation of Guan was the same as his own. He definitely wouldn't imagine that I have the cultivation level of the second level of the Wandering Immortal realm. Also, it's probable he hasn't heard of the term Wandering Immortal in this short life. The Nine-Finger Divine Lord held the tea bowl, looking at Guan with a smile. Guan raised his bowl as well and smiled back at him. If this old fellow knew I was at the 9th layer of the carefree primordial immortal, could he remain this calm? Guan thought, finding it very amusing. The Nine-Finger Divine Lord suddenly said, "Lately the world has been unstable. You need to be careful. Try to stay out of the valley as much as possible." Hearing this, Guan frowned and asked, "Senior, has something major happened?" The Nine-Finger Divine Lord hesitated for a moment, then softly said, "To be honest, the holy land of this continent, the Seven Stars Spirit Realm, is about to collapse. This will inevitably affect the balance of both the continent and the ocean. Without the pressure of the Seven Stars Spirit Realm, it's inevitable that more great cultivators will invade this continent." Guan asked in surprise, "How could that be possible? That's a holy land." The disadvantages of destroying the Seven Stars Spirit Realm hadn't escaped Guan's consideration. But there were pros and cons to everything. Even if the Seven Stars Spirit Realm wasn't destroyed, who knew what calamity it planned next? If it weren't for him, the immortal cultivation world of the 3 dynasties and the beings of the continent would have long perished in the demon calamity. Guan had a clear conscience. Considering his own safety, he only thought about being a savior. He never shouldered the world's safety. He was first a man, then an immortal. It's indeed incredible. That was a colossus standing for hundreds of thousands of years. I don't know who did it. The Nine-Finger Divine Lord sighed. Guan asked, "Since the world is about to fall into chaos, why doesn't Senior stay in the Supreme Sect? The ocean is surely more dangerous than the continent, isn't it?" He hoped to fully bring the Nine-Finger Divine Lord into the Supreme Sect's camp, so he wouldn't have to deal with some minor threats. Truth be told, killing didn't have that much appeal to him, compared to the longevity offered by medicinal herbs. The Nine-Finger Divine Lord nodded and said, "I'm planning to stay for a while, because I have a suspicion in my mind." "What suspicion?" "Haha, that I cannot tell you, lest you get entangled in karma." "Really? Then please don't say it. Though I'm unaware of your realm, your world is definitely not one I can tread." "Ha ha ha." Hearing Guan's words, the Nine-Finger Divine Lord laughed heartily. Throughout his life, he had met many people, but few were as calm and open-minded as Guan. Although he hadn't revealed his true cultivation level, even his superficial level was enough to make most core formation realm cultivators go out of their way to please him. Guan was different. Their friendship was one of a gentleman's, without any interests involved, making him feel very comfortable. Guan didn't listen to him much. From time to time, he would talk about amusing things in his valley. Though plain, they had a unique flavor to the Nine-Finger Divine Lord. Having stood atop the clouds for so long, occasionally looking at the lives of mortals was quite nice. Later, Guan invited the Nine-Finger Divine Lord to play a game of Go. After explaining the rules just once, the Nine-Finger Divine Lord understood. At first, the Nine-Finger Divine Lord's moves were messy, but after about 40 moves, he started to develop his own strategy. From blind defense to strategic preparation, he improved rapidly. Guan became interested and started playing seriously. In the end, he won. The defeated Nine-Finger Divine Lord was not angry. Instead, he looked at the board with interest, savoring Guan's strategies. "Interesting, let's play again," the Nine-Finger Divine Lord said, looking up. Guan then called out to Xiaochuan, who was passing by, asking him to play, stating that Xiaochuan was better than him, making Xiaochuan raise his chin. The Nine-Finger Divine Lord didn't care who his opponent was as long as they knew how to play. Thus, the two began to battle on the Go board, attracting other disciples to watch the excitement. Yang Jian stood by Guan watching the game. He wasn't interested in Go. He preferred Chinese chess with its more straightforward and intense battles. However, he could sense the Nine-Finger Divine Lord's profound aura, indicating that this person was very powerful, prompting him to watch the excitement. They played until dusk and Xiaochuan was dazed. The nine-fingered divine lord stood up contentedly, looked at Guan and said, "All right, I need to go to the main city of the sect. They'll come back later for another game. I think this go contains the true meaning of Tao. Good game." His gaze fell involuntarily on Yang Jian. "Oh!" The nine-fingered divine lord's eyes changed immediately. Although Yang Jian had concealed his cultivation, the nine-fingered divine lord could tell at a glance that Yang Jian's physique was special. Guan quickly said, "You already took away Chu Jingfeng. Don't even think about taking my disciple. He is with me for life." The surrounding disciples looked at Yang Jian with complex expressions. Could Yang Jian really be a genius? Yang Jian echoed, "That's right. I will serve my master for life and will never acknowledge another master." Next to him, an Xian showed a look of envy, thinking of her own master in her youth. If she had extraordinary talent, would her master have been willing to keep her by his side? But then she let it go, thinking her senior and Hao had exceptional talent but still couldn't stay with the master. The nine-fingered divine lord gave Yang Jian a deep look, then turned his gaze to Guan and said, "Your disciple is indeed extraordinary. Make sure he stays in the Medicine Valley and doesn't descend the mountain. Otherwise, he might cause you trouble." After speaking, the nine-fingered divine lord leaped into the air, like a white crane flying toward the horizon. His words made the surrounding disciples look at Yang Jian with even more curiosity, but Yang Jian remained calm and indifferent. "'Cause my master trouble? Provoking my master, that would be the real trouble." Chapter 252: The Influence of Sword Venerable Fudao. For the Medicine Valley, the matter of the nine-fingered divine lord was just a small episode, which did not affect the daily life of the valley. Instead, Yang Jian's status grew higher, and other disciples began to show him respect. If Yang Jian becoming Gu An's disciple might have been due to Gu An's favoritism, now even the nine-fingered divine lord favored him, indicating that Yang Jian was truly a genius, merely unrecognizable to the ordinary eye. Early the next morning, Guan rode the Blood Prison Great Saint to Tianya Valley. In the coming month, all the medicine valleys would enter a period of harvest, which he looked forward to greatly. Time quickly reached the end of summer. A piece of news suddenly stirred the entire immortal cultivation world, sweeping through the supreme sect like a storm. The news came extremely abruptly. Guan had just returned to the Mystic Valley when he heard disciples within the valley discussing. This morning, a cultivator swept across the sky above the Mystic Valley, announcing a grand event that shocked the world. The demonic tribulation originated in the holy land of the Seven-Star Spirit Realm, where Sword Venerable Fudao descended to the realm, slaying demons and reconstructing the Holy Land. The amount of information contained in this event was immense. Even the servant disciples at the bottom of the immortal cultivation world were intensely discussing it. Seeing Guan return, Lu Jujia immediately approached him to inform him of this matter. "I never thought the demonic tribulation was secretly orchestrated by the Holy Land. No wonder they did not intervene in previous calamities," Lu Jujia said angrily. The scandal of the Seven-Star Spirit Realm reminded him of his previous experiences within the Supreme Sect. Could it be that there is no absolutely pure righteous path in the world? Guan listened attentively, and when he heard Lu Jujia praise Sword Venerable Fudao as invincible in the world, he smiled and echoed the sentiment, appearing as a worshipper of the Sword Venerable. After chatting for a long time, he hurried to Outer Gate City. Because he had gone to Nianchu Cave Mansion last night, he did not bring the Blood Prison Great Saint. On his way to Outer Gate City, Guan saw the figures of many disciples. Recalling 100 years ago, seeing disciples outside the outer gate was a rare sight, testifying to the current strength of the Supreme Sect. Upon reaching Outer Gate City, it was bustling with people. The noise filled Guan's ears, and almost everyone was excited, with the name Sword Venerable Fudao on everyone's lips. Guan made his way to the heavenly repair platform, where there were even more people. However, this time, disciples of the Law Enforcement Hall of the Supreme Sect were stationed at the edges of the platform. temporarily forbidding anyone from stepping on it, with even Wuxia being driven off. Guwen saw circles of people surrounding the heaven-cutting axe, including Ji Hantian and Gu Zong, with Zuijian, the guardian of the heaven-cutting axe, forced to the back, looking dissatisfied. He sensed several familiar auras that he had encountered in the Seven Stars spirit realm. They were the geniuses he had saved from the Seven Stars spirit realm, now kneeling before the heaven-cutting axe, accompanied by loose immortals who were explaining the transformation of the Seven Stars spirit realm. Their sincerity was apparent. The Seven Stars spirit realm had a profound heritage. Destroying the higher echelons was not enough to completely dissolve it, but if the remaining members could rebuild a new Seven Stars spirit realm for the benefit of all beings, it would be a good thing. Guan's gaze involuntarily turned to Wuxia. The son of the Demon Emperor had now fully integrated into the Supreme Sect and even became a high-ranking member. Sensing his gaze, Wuxia glanced back at him, nodding to acknowledge him. Guan nodded in return, feeling somewhat nostalgic, as the two had grown distant over time. He wasn't angry or sad. Some people naturally drifted apart over time, not always from disdain but simply because they had no common topics after a long period without contact. He did not approach further and instead walked away. Besides Wuxia, he had many friends in Outer Gate City. Though most were drinking buddies who could chat, drink, and enjoy an afternoon together were indeed friends. Guan wanted to hear their praises for Sword Venerable Fudao. It wasn't just the Supreme Sect. All sects under heaven were fervently spreading the news. Sword Venerable Fudao single-handedly ventured into the holy land of the Seven Stars spirit realm, slaying immortals within, a feat that was thrilling and awe-inspiring. After this battle, no one dared to question Sword Venerable Fudao anymore. People marveled at his strength, overshadowing discussions of the Seven Stars spirit realm's sins. Most cultivators, upon hearing about the Seven Stars spirit realm's crimes, at most cursed a few times without feeling disillusioned, as they were accustomed to such events. It was merely that the spirit realm's sins were grander. But Sword Venerable Fudao was different. Each of his actions shook the cultivators. Every time they thought they had overestimated him, he would achieve another earth-shattering feat sweeping through a holy land alone. How exaggerated was that? Immortal cultivation was not like martial arts. The higher the realm, the harder it was to take on many opponents at the same level. The Seven Stars spirit realm, a holy land hiding immortals, could be swept through by one person. In the following days, Yilan, Zhenqin, Shenzhen, Guyu, Zuolin, Wuju, and others came to talk to Guan about this event, each extremely excited. Shenzhen, unable to contain her excitement, wanted to write a book about Sword Venerable Fudao but was stopped by Guan, fearing she might offend the Sword Venerable. Though he had heard different people praise Sword Venerable Fudao, Guan still enjoyed it each time, never growing tired of it. After the first wave of excitement passed, the immortal cultivation world began to discuss the character of Sword Venerable Fudao. Despite annihilating the high-ranking members of the Seven Stars spirit realm, he offered them a chance, showing the true nature of an immortal to the world. Mighty and reckless, that was a demon. Strong yet benevolent, caring for all beings, that was an immortal. As the entire immortal cultivation world started worshipping Sword Venerable Fudao, many imitators emerged, some copying his name, others his style. One thing was certain, Sword Venerable Fudao was influencing the immortal cultivation world with his actions. One day, Guan arrived at the mountain god temple on the North Sea Mountains. Besides Sage Xian Miao, there were 3 other cultivators in the temple, seemingly resting there by chance. The 4 were discussing Sword Venerable Fudao. Sage Xian Miao, who mostly stayed there and seldom interacted with people, was shocked upon hearing that Sword Venerable Fudao had forced the Seven Stars spirit realm to reform. That was the Seven Stars spirit realm, a behemoth never dared to be provoked or even inquired about by their ancestors of the 3 Pure Ones mountain, almost obliterated by Sword Venerable Fudao. Since the event was confirmed by cultivators of the Seven Stars spirit realm themselves, many details were revealed, solidifying Sword Venerable Fudao's strength. It was said that Sword Venerable Fudao didn't even use spells or divine skills, but with one sword, He slew 7 immortals of the 7 stars spirit realm. Even the 7 stars mirror, the spirit realm's supreme treasure, couldn't withstand one of his swords. Sage Xian Miao felt like he was listening to a story. Why did he feel that sword Venerable Fudao was stronger than the mountain god? No, both the mountain god and sword Venerable Fudao were mighty beings above all others. Perhaps they even knew each other. Sage Xian Miao's mind was filled with fantasies. Seeing that the 3 cultivators had no intention of leaving soon, Guwen moved to the edge of the North Sea. He stood by the lake, gazing at the vast expanse of water, his divine sense probing the lakebed. Buried at the bottom was the immortal king crown, untouched to this day. Back then, deeming it dangerous, he buried it. Now, having dealt with the divine exotic city and the 7 stars mirror, he felt he could understand the immortal king crown. With a wave of his hand, the lake's surface rippled. The immortal king crown and the short flute capable of summoning the 9 nether 13 evil immediately flew out, landing in his hand. He put the short flute into his storage bag and held the immortal king crown with both hands. Under the sunlight, the dark gold immortal king crown shimmered, the grooves on it giving it an ominous appearance. Guwen immediately sent his divine sense into the immortal king crown. Boom! A powerful aura burst forth, ruffling Guwen's robes and stirring waves on the lake. It was quite a spectacle. Just as expected, the internal restrictions of the immortal king crown were similar to those of the 7 stars mirror, but not as complete. Many restrictions were still recovering, indicating that it was a damaged immortal path supreme treasure, more damaged than the divine exotic city, lacking even the formation of a new immortal spirit. While probing the restrictions, Guwen also learned about the immortal king crown. Besides containing immense power, the immortal king crown could also devour chi blood, accelerating its recovery. The evil emperor was drained of chi blood by the immortal king crown, leaving only his soul. The evil emperor was only at the Mahayana realm, unable to withstand the immortal king crown, but now, Guwen at the 9th layer of carefree primordial immortal could easily endure it. Guwen began to refine the crown's master recognition restrictions, making it his own dharma treasure. The process was complex, but having dealt with the divine exotic city and the 7 stars mirror, it was no longer difficult for Guwen. An hour later, Guwen successfully made the immortal king crown recognize him as its master. He removed the hairband from his head and wore the immortal king crown, tying his hair beneath it. With a thought, the crown transformed from an emperor's crown to a Taoist's crown. Despite having many grooves, its reduced size made it less eerie, enhancing his ethereal aura. Guwen took out the 7 stars mirror and began to groom his hair. The more he looked, the more satisfied he felt. As expected, clothes do make the man, and adornments enhance even a Buddha's appearance. Even with his outstanding looks, fine decorations added to his charm. In the future, pairing it with exquisite robes will enhance my charisma, Guwen thought to himself. After all, he was a core formation realm cultivator. Looking good did no harm. Although he aimed to cultivate discreetly, there was no need to live too restrained. If anyone targeted him for his refined appearance and refused to reason, Guwen could only reason with them from a 9th layer carefree primordial immortal's perspective. He wandered by the lakeside, admiring the North Sea scenery until dusk. At dusk, a cultivator flew from the horizon, landing beside him, and asked, "Taoist friend, may I ask which sect you are from?" Guwen cast a lifespan detection at the other person. Guguhong, Core Formation Realm 8th Layer 373/500/950. A very ordinary cultivator. However, 130 years ago, such a person would have been a significant figure to Guwen replied, "I am from the ancient sky sect. What does Taoist friend require?" Guguhong, clad in gray, wearing a hat and carrying a long box, looked travel-worn. He glanced at the lake and said, "I heard that the North Sea has shown anomalies lately, with a supreme treasure about to emerge. I wonder if Taoist friend has heard anything about it." Just as Guwen was about to respond, Guguhong suddenly raised his hand, forming a claw with his right hand, aiming at Gu and his heart. Chapter 253 The same person, Guoguhong developed animosity towards you and harbored killing intent. Do you wish to perform lifespan detection on him? Seeing Guoguhong make a move against him, Guan only wanted to laugh. This fellow was truly vicious, striking as soon as the thought of killing arose, indicating that Guoguhong frequently engaged in such actions. Unfortunately, this time he chose the wrong opponent. Boom! As Guoguhong's claw touched Guan's chest, a force exploded, causing dust and stones to fly under Guan's feet and stirring up ripples on the lake, while Guoguhong instantly turned to ashes. Guan raised his hand, brushed his temples, and continued forward, dispersing the ashes that had been Guoguhong with a step. The prompt to seize lifespan was directly ignored by him because the lifespan was too short. The North Sea shimmered with the light of a setting sun, and a large fish leaped at the end of the lake, resembling a crescent moon in midair. The sun set and the moon rose. 2 days later, Guan, in the form of a mountain god, arrived at the mountain god temple. The small figure jumped down from the eaves, and Sage Xian Miao, upon hearing the movement, opened his eyes. Seeing it was Guan, he quickly stood up and saluted. How is the cultivation of medicinal herbs going? I need more herbs for my alchemy. Guan landed on the ground and walked towards the courtyard gate, asking. Sage Xian Miao stood behind him like a mountain, but the posture was very respectful. Not bad, but I wonder how much you need, Sage Xian Miao replied. Then they left the mountain god temple and began to gather medicinal herbs. During this time, Sage Xian Miao narrated the events that had occurred recently, even mentioning who had passed by the mountain god temple. He indeed did not lie. As the carefree primordial immortal, Guan could see the past events here, and Sage Xian Miao did not hide anything. Guan was not interested in the matters he talked about, but he was satisfied with his attitude. Having guarded this place for decades, Sage Xian Miao's attitude remained devout, and Guan felt it necessary to reward him. After Guan finished gathering herbal materials, the two arrived at an open space. He still left half of the herbs for Sage Xian Miao. Sage Xian Miao wanted to discuss Sword Venerable Fu Dao with the mountain god, but he did not know how to start, so he remained silent for a moment. You have been diligent over the years. I am very pleased. Would you like to learn a sword technique? Guan stood on a rock, looked at Sage Xian Miao, and asked with a smile. Upon hearing this, Sage Xian Miao was stupefied for a moment and instinctively replied, Of course I would. Guan raised his hand and pointed his index finger at him remotely. In an instant, Sage Xian Miao fell into a daze. He did not know how much time passed. Sage Xian Miao gradually woke up. When he opened his eyes, he no longer saw the mountain god's figure. The sunset cast dappled shadows of leaves on his face in the forest. Vast star-suppressing heaven-boundless sword. Sage Xian Miao was shocked. Could such a profound sword technique exist in the world? Moreover, why did this sword technique seem somewhat similar to his Li family's sword technique? However, he had been cultivating at Three Pure Ones Mountain since childhood. Although he was related to the Taizong imperial family by blood, he had not delved into the Li family's heritage. The mountain god also knows the sword Dao. I wonder how his swordsmanship compares to Sword Venerable Fu Dao's. Sage Xian Miao couldn't help but think. After hearing about Sword Venerable Fu Dao's prowess, he always speculated about Sword Venerable Fu Dao's cultivation level unconsciously. He had to admit that Sword Venerable Fu Dao's personal charm was indeed compelling, making his heart yearn. Remorseful. How could I be disloyal to the mountain god? Sage Xian Miao struggled to suppress his inner turmoil, but another thought arose within him, a thought even he could hardly believe. Could the mountain god and Sword Venerable Fu Dao be the same person? Before the overseas cultivators invaded, how could there have been two super-existences above the seven-star spirit realm simultaneously on the continent? The news of Sword Venerable Fu Dao vanquishing the immortals of the seven-star spirit realm continued to spread. In the following days, the Supreme Sect and the seven-star spirit realm announced their friendship, pledging to protect the people of the mainland together henceforth, setting an example for the righteous path, which established the Supreme Sect as the foremost sect in the immortal cultivation world of the three dynasties. This event greatly enhanced the Supreme Sect's influence, attracting an increasing number of people to join. The autumn wind blew through the Supreme Sect yet failed to bring desolation there. In the mountains and forests, Guwen sat on the back of the blood prison Great Saint, turning his head to look at the group of young boys and girls that had just brushed past them, feeling nostalgic. This group of youngsters was led by two adult men, one a village chief and the other a teacher, on their way to the Supreme Sect to seek the immortal path. Such a scene was rare, especially in the mountains between Mystic Valley and Tianya Valley. Guwen looked forward again, asked casually, "What do you think of the Supreme Sect nowadays?" The blood prison Great Saint thought for a while, then said, "Pretty good. It seems to be improving, and it indeed qualifies as the righteous path. Whether it be Medicine Valley or the Outer Gate City, the atmosphere is great." He knew that the Supreme Sect's current prosperity was all due to the one on his back. If the Supreme Sect ever displeased Guwen, today's glory could turn into an illusion at any moment. Having been a steed for a long time, the blood prison Great Saint developed some feelings for the Supreme Sect. Although there were some unsavory characters in Medicine Valley, most were not bad overall. Compared to the lower realm sect he came from, the Supreme Sect was more harmonious. Apart from not being strong enough, it matched his ideal place for immortals. He could also feel the Supreme Sect's rising fortune lately and believed that in 1,000 years, its strength would be immeasurable. Qualifying as the righteous path is good enough, Guwen said with a soft laugh. One man and one ox walked through the mountains, gradually disappearing into the depths of the forest. An ancient hour later, Guwen rode the blood prison Great Saint leisurely into Tianya Valley. He sensed the presence of others in the valley. Li Xiandao had arrived. Guwen remained unhurried, leisurely progressing forward. Li Xiandao was in a courtyard, drinking tea, with a young boy practicing swordsmanship behind him. The boy seemed to be only 7 or 8, yet his sword movements were fluid and very nimble. Luo Hun stood nearby, his eyes fixed on the boy with the sword, worried he might hurt himself. When Li Xiandao saw Guwen from afar, a smile appeared on his face. This kid has become quite ostentatious, but he knows how to enjoy life, Li Xiandao said with amused disbelief. Guwen rode a majestic demon pet, wearing a luxurious and exquisite blue robe with an extravagant dark gold crown that made him look very much like an immortal lord of the mortal world. LV Xian, who was meditating at the mountain peak, also saw Guwen and was dazzled by his attire. For some reason, there was an aura about Guwen that made him uneasy, an instinctual unease he couldn't quite explain. Seeing Li Zuando's gaze, Guwen patted the bull's back, making Blood Prison Great Saint quicken its pace. Soon, Blood Prison Great Saint reached the courtyard. Guwen dismounted and quickly walked into the yard. "Uncle, long time no see." Guwen raised his hand in a salute. Out of habit, he cast a lifespan detection on the young boy. Li Ling Tian, Energy Cultivation Realm 4th Layer 8/110/8999, a lifespan limit of 8,999 years? That was something. Guwen was curious, but his face remained calm. "Indeed, it's been a long time. I've been here for 2 days, waiting specifically to see you before I leave," Li Xiandao said with a laugh. Nowadays, he was in high spirits. The three dynasties' contention continued, but everyone could feel the Taizong dynasty's dominance. In the coming years, Li Xiandao was likely to unify the land, a feat no one had accomplished for thousands of years. Li Zuando's cultivation level also advanced rapidly, nearing the 9th layer of the unification realm. This guy could catch up with LV Badian within a century. The two started to chat. Guwen talked about his Medicine Valley in response to Li Zuando's concern, mentioning trivial matters, which Li Xiandao listened to intently. Aside from Gu An's relationship with Li Ye, Li Xiandao was very satisfied with how Guwen managed Tianya Valley over the years. After chatting for a while, Li Xiandao started to tease Guwen about his current appearance, which was vastly different from before. "One must enjoy life when it's going well. Unlike you and senior brother Li, who can stir the world's affairs, I can also live a glamorous life in my small world," Can't I? Guwen laughed, touching the immortal king crown on his head as he spoke. Li Xiandao laughed. It seems your crown lacks gems. Need my help? Or shall I send you a better one? A better one? I doubt you can afford it. Guwen shook his head to decline courteously, and Li Xiandao did not insist. He waved to Li Lingtian, who immediately ran over, curiously watching Guwen looking at his small face. Guwen couldn't help but think of 15-year-old Liya. Their brows and eyes were somewhat similar. This is senior brother Gu, who has the best relationship with your brother Liya. Li Xiandao introduced to Li Lingtian. Li Lingtian immediately saluted Guwen in a very mature and adorable manner. Guwen was about to think of what to give as a meeting gift when Li Lingtian asked, Senior brother Gu, I heard you wrote Journey to the West. Have you met Sun Wukong? Guwen was stunned, glancing at Luo Hun, who looked away. Li Xiandao kept his smile, obviously knowing this all along. It reminded him of the time he had asked Guwen about investiture of the gods. Guwen suddenly thought, had Li Xiandao known he was Pan and all along and tried to probe him intentionally? But that no longer mattered. Yes, in my dream. In reality, I accepted an apprentice named Yang Jian, Guwen replied, patting Li Lingshan's head with a smile. True Lord Erlang Yang Jian? Is he powerful? Can I spar with him? Li Lingtian became excited, clenching his little fists. Guwen laughed. Of course, but you'll have to grow up first. Li Lingtian nodded obediently. Then, like a little adult, said, Senior brother Gu, you must ensure your apprentice trains hard. My uncle says I have the best life grid in the world, and I fear your apprentice might not be a match for me. Li Xiandao gave him a stern look. Your father always taught you to be modest, Li Lingtian complained. Uncle said so, and mother said everything in this world was created for me, so I can be confident. Li Zuando's face turned visibly displeased. Guwen found it amusing and said, All right, senior brother Gu will make sure he trains hard. Promise me you'll train well and not fight with others before sparring with my apprentice. Can you do that? Chapter 254 True Yang Jian. False Sun Wukong hearing Gu An's words. Li Lingtian didn't think too much and directly agreed. Li Xiandao was very unhappy and scolded Li Lingtian. As a result, Li Lingtian got angry and started to talk back. Next came the lesson with a slap. Li Lingtian was picked up by Li Xiandao, hung over his leg, and his butt was spanked harshly. This scene reminded Gu of scenes from his childhood in his past life. The memories of his past life were hazy, as if they were distant recollections. Guwen didn't expect Li Xiandao to have this side. He wondered whether Liya had been educated in this way when he was a child. However, he could see that Li Lingshan's mother seemed very unusual, and Li Zuando's words about his mother showed considerable helplessness. Guwen looked at Li Lingshan's karma and peered into his past. Soon, Guwen understood some information. Li Lingshan's mother came from the ocean with the surname Yang, from a great family. For her, Li Xiandao had deposed the former queen and made her the new queen. He also decided to cultivate Li Lingtian as the crown prince. After peering into Li Lingshan's past, Guwen sighed to himself. Having a strong background as a mother indeed allowed for recklessness. However, Li Lingshan's life grid was also extraordinary. He was born overseas, and during his birth, there were thunderstorms that attracted the protection of great cultivators in the family. After his birth, Li Xiandao officially married Empress Yang, and the Yang family even dispatched special guards to protect Li Lingshan's growth. Currently, there were already 2 Mahayana cultivators guarding from afar. Previously, Mahayana cultivators were rare, but now they continuously flowed into the immortal cultivation world of the 3 dynasties. Perhaps the Yang family also saw the potential of this continent and made an advance bet, with Li Xiandao, who was about to unify the 3 dynasties, being a good candidate. Li Lingtian was indeed extraordinary. No matter how much Li Xiandao hit him, he didn't cry. Instead, he stubbornly glared at Li Xiandao. This boy was simply a little demon king, and in the future, Li Xiandao and Liya would probably suffer. Uncle, that's enough. The child can be taught slowly in the future. Right now, he didn't actually do anything wrong. It was just his way of speaking. I didn't feel offended. Guwen spoke up, giving Li Xiandao a way out. After hearing this, Li Xiandao looked embarrassed. He looked at Guwen and said, "This boy is naturally strong and has a small mind. It's better not to let him compete with your disciple, lest he really remembers it." Li Lingtian climbed down from his father's leg and hid beside Guwen, grabbing Guwen's arm and sticking his tongue out at Li Xiandao. Guwen could feel Li Lingtian's strength. This boy was only 8 years old, yet it seemed he could easily crush a stone. "It's okay. My disciple is also very strong," Guwen said with a smile. Upon hearing this, Li Xiandao could only shake his head and not persuade further. He thought that in this world, only An Hao could be compared to his youngest son. Even Lv was not as talented as Li Lingtian. After that, Li Xiandao changed the topic to talk about Sword Venerable Fudao. At the mention of this topic, Guwen became excited and discussed it eagerly with him. Li Xiandao thought he was also an admirer of Sword Venerable Fudao, which was quite normal. Even he, the Emperor of Taizong, felt his blood surge upon hearing about Sword Venerable Fudao's deeds, much less ordinary cultivators with low cultivation levels. After chatting for an ancient hour, Li Xiandao left with Li Lingtian. Before leaving, Li Lingtian waved at Guwen and said, "Senior brother Gu, don't let Yang Jian forget this matter. When I grow up, I will come to duel with him." Guwen nodded with a smile, secretly looking forward to Li Lingtian's defeat. In terms of ultimate lifespan, Yang Jian's was higher. In terms of age, Yang Jian was older. And in terms of teachers, could Li Lingtian find a master like the carefree primordial immortal? Given that Li Xiandao treated him well, he would properly guide Li Lingtian to prevent him from straying onto the wrong path. After collecting the medicinal herbs, Guwen rode the Blood Prison Great Saint to leave. After traveling 100 miles away from Tianya Valley, the Blood Prison Great Saint said, "Master, that boy's chi blood is not simple." He could tell at a glance that Li Lingtian's bones were extraordinary and his chi fortune was special. "Indeed, not simple. But do you think he can compare to Jenner?" Guwen asked casually. "Definitely not. There is no one more monstrous than that boy." Mentioning Yang Jian, the Blood Prison Great Saint sighed deeply. He watched Yang Jian transcend the mundane, which made him revere Guwen even more. It was Guwen who discovered Yang Jian. Otherwise, Yang Jian might have been as mediocre as other disciples in the valley for a lifetime. "The cultivation technique I taught you must be diligently practiced. 1,000 years later, this world might be a completely different place. Even if Mahayana remains powerful, its status will surely be lower than now. Master, rest assured, I will not disgrace you. It's not about disgracing me. You cultivate for yourself. Hee. I plan to follow you for life. You, Oxhead, are you planning on sticking with me? I hope Master will show mercy." The collapse of the 7 Stars spirit realm caused greater turmoil over the ocean. When Guwen went to Immortal Seeking Island, many people were discussing it. At the private gathering of Sage Tanghai that he attended, those cultivators were also amazed by Sword Venerable Fudao's strength. After this battle, the name of Sword Venerable Fudao spread across the sea, gaining wider fame than on the continent. The turmoil at sea didn't affect the continent. The Star Sea congregations and the surrounding major forces did not dare touch the continent where Sword Venerable Fudao resided. Instead, many cultivators rushed to the continent seeking opportunities. In this context, the continent welcomed peace. Guwen's life also became more stable. He focused on planting medicinal herbs, waiting for the outer world cave to yield a harvest. During the waiting period, he continuously expanded the cave, planting more medicinal herbs. Nowadays, he could move the outer world cave, so he felt more secure in planting. Tianqing and Tianbai helped Tianyao with many affairs, and there had been no incidents in the outer world cave and Yenshu cave. In the blink of an eye, time flew by. 10 years passed. This year, Xiaochuan released his primordial reincarnation skill, breaking through to the Foundation Establishment realm. His ultimate lifespan reached 286 years, far less than Yilan's. This was related to his attitude towards cultivation. He was not as diligent as Yilan. No matter what, Xiaochuan could at least live another 100 years. After releasing his cultivation level, Xiaochuan bade farewell to Guwen. He planned to return to his hometown and experience the life of an ordinary person again. If possible, he would have children. Although Guwen did not see him off, he protected Xiaochuan along the way with his divine sense, fearing any mishap. Half a month later, when Xiaochuan returned to his hometown, Guwen temporarily shifted his attention away from him. In the middle of summer, the Third Medicine Valley welcomed visitors. Guwen personally greeted them and saw a man and woman walking from the valley entrance. Yang and I, Divinity Transformation Stage 5th Level 318/1200/1360. Li Ling Tian, Foundation Establishment Realm 9th Layer 18/350/8999. Gu An's gaze fell on Yang and I. She was Li Ya's mother's younger sister. When the ephemera sect caused trouble back then, she was involved. After protecting Guwen for a while, she left. Over the years, Guwen would occasionally catch glimpses of her with his divine sense. She wandered all over, cultivating in various places. She occasionally encountered trouble, but on the whole lived fairly well. Yang and I was dressed in red, with a treasure sword at her waist. Her face was still as delicate. She seemed a bit dazed seeing Guwen from afar. The boy she once needed to protect had now become a core formation realm cultivator, and his appearance had also greatly changed. Following Yang and I, Li Ling Tian glanced around, seemingly looking for someone. The 18-year-old Li Ling Tian wore white clothes with gold patterns and a golden dragon pearl crown on his head. He had an elegant demeanor. Honestly, Guwen thought he was more handsome than Li Ya. The arrival of these two attracted many disciples' attention, but seeing Guwen personally step up to greet them, they did not approach. Yang and I, long time no see, Guwen said with a smile as he approached the two. Yang and I eyed Guwen and said, "It's been years, you boy. Your aura has changed greatly. You finally look like a cultivator." Guwen smiled and said, "Not too bad." He looked at Li Lingtian, pretended to hesitate, and asked, "You are?" Li Lingtian also eyed Guwen, then laughed and said, "Senior brother Gu, it's me, Li Lingtian. I have come to fulfill my appointment." After saying this, his gaze drifted into the distance, searching for Yang Jian. Guwen shook his head and chuckled, then invited Yang and I and Li Lingtian to sit down and chat. However, Li Lingtian insisted on a duel first. Guwen had no choice but to call Yang Jian. Then he took them out of the valley to find a secluded place for the duel. Li Lingtian thought Guwen was worried about losing face, so he did not refuse. Along the way, Li Lingtian kept staring at Yang Jian with eager eyes, making Yang Jian uncomfortable. 10 years had passed, and Yang Jian's cultivation level had reached the 8th layer of the core formation realm, his apparent cultivation level brought up to the foundation establishment realm. Guwen walked in front, chatting with Yang and I, catching up on old times. She had many things to say upon seeing Guwen again. She didn't come with Li Lingtian. Li Lingtian had insisted on coming when he overheard Li Shendao arrange for her to come to the Supreme Sect. Empress Yang also has the surname Yang. I wonder, Guwen suddenly asked. Yang and I glared at him and said, "Don't ask. We can't compare to the Empress Yang family." Clearly, although they shared the same surname, they were not related. Li Ya's mother, Ms. Yang, was the woman Li Shendao once loved most. He even gave her the heavenly residence sword. Now Li Lingshan's mother also had the surname Yang, making Guwen speculate a lot. Could it be that Li Shendao was drawn to Empress Yang because of her last name rather than her background? By the way, that boy Li Lingtian has no sense of control. If he hurts your disciple, don't mind. Don't worry. I will be watching carefully and intervene promptly to prevent serious injury. Yang and I reminded. Guwen smiled and said, "It's fine. They are both in the foundation establishment realm. It's normal to get hurt during a duel." If Li Lingtian was about to be beaten to death, he would also intervene. Behind them, Li Lingtian looked at Yang Jian and finally spoke. "You are called Yang Jian?" Why this name? Yang Jian replied, because I liked reading Investiture of the Gods and Journey to the West when I was young. Coincidentally, I also like it, but I prefer Sun Wukong. Is it Yang Jian versus Sun Wukong today? I just don't know if you are the real Yang Jian. Li Lingtian said with a grin. Yang Jian glanced at him and said, I also like Sun Wukong. Whether I'm the real Yang Jian, this fake Sun Wukong will soon know. Chapter 255. Vulnerable Gu En and Yang and I, walking in front, could hear the tension in the voices of Yang Jian and Li Lingtian. Gu En didn't mind. After all, it was Li Lingtian who first provoked Yang Jian. While he taught Yang Jian to be humble, he couldn't allow him to develop a meek personality that got bullied. Yang and I, on the other hand, didn't expect Gu An's disciple to have such a tough character. From what she remembered, Gu En had always had a gentle disposition. However, against Li Lingtian, being too tough could be a disadvantage. Although Yang and I didn't like Li Lingtian, she had to admit that his talent was extraordinarily strong, almost like an immortal descended to the mortal realm. After a while, the four of them reached the woods. Without waiting for Gu En and Yang and I to speak, Yang Jian and Li Lingtian had already squared off. Li Lingtian asked, "What rules do you need?" He could see that Yang Jian's cultivation level was lower than his, so he wanted Yang Jian to set the rules. Li Lingtian never liked bullying others. Yang Jian looked at him calmly and said, "Let's just fight directly. They'll show mercy." Although Yang Jian didn't know Li Lingtian's identity, he had to show Gu En respect since Yang and I and Gu En seemed to be on cordial terms. Hearing Yang Jian's words, Li Lingtian was momentarily stunned. This guy really didn't give in. Li Lingtian didn't think much of it. After all, this was his first battle since he started cultivating, something he had anticipated for 10 years. "Then let's fight." Li Lingtian let out a loud laugh, moved his feet, and a fierce wind scattered the surrounding leaves. He dashed towards Yang Jian like lightning, his legs sweeping out like a long whip, exceedingly fierce. Yang Jian reacted just as quickly, almost instantly lifting his knee to block Li Lingtian's sweeping leg. Li Lingtian's eyes widened, and his smile became ferocious. Yang Jian's strength excited him greatly. "Such fast reactions," Yang and I said. Standing next to Gu and Yang Jian surprised her. Both Li Lingtian and Yang Jian, with merely their speed and reactions, had already surpassed Foundation Establishment realm cultivators. Yang and I even thought she wasn't this strong when she was in the core formation realm. It turned out Gu En really had confidence. Li Lingtian leveraged the force to jump back, his body stretching in midair. He punched out, and spiritual power formed a golden dragon shadow that charged at Yang Jian. A dragon's roar exploded, echoing through the woods. Yang Jian didn't retreat. Instead, he advanced, dispersing the dragon's shadow with a wave of his hand and stepping up to Li Lingtian. Li Lingtian's pupils contracted suddenly. Bang! Yang Jian struck Li Lingtian's abdomen with his elbow, causing Li Lingtian's eyes to widen and his mouth to open, spitting out blood. Immediately, Yang Jian's fists and kicks followed like a storm, beating Li Lingtian's body severely, making him feel like a sandbag, unable to stay grounded. "This is impossible." Yang Ni's eyes widened in disbelief. She knew Li Lingtian's strength well. Although he hadn't sparred with others, Li Shendao had prepared many puppets as grindstones for him. In her view, Li Lingtian had already surpassed the Foundation Establishment realm. If he had not spent so much time practicing spells and divine skills, his cultivation would have reached the core formation realm by now. Such a monstrous talent being beaten so completely? It was unbelievable. Yang Jian's fist and kick speed even made this divinity transformation realm cultivator quite shocked. As Yang Jian engaged in battle, she could sense an extremely dangerous aura from him, something she had never felt before. Although Yang Jian's cultivation level couldn't threaten her, she felt an inexplicable reverence. Seeing that Li Lingtian was about to be beaten to death, Yang and I was about to intervene but was stopped by Gu En. "Don't worry. Jenner knows his limits. This is a good opportunity to temper this prince's character. Otherwise, Hell create too many enemies in the immortal cultivation world with his arrogance, Guin said with a smile. Yang and I glanced at him, looking at his profile, and felt somewhat dazed. Why was he so calm? She suddenly felt that Guin must have gone through a lot over the years she was away. The key question was how such a talented individual could have taken Guin as his master. Yang and I turned her gaze to Yang Jian. She had to admit, at this moment, Yang Jian looked like the true genius, and Li Lingtian appeared so incapable, completely unable to display his talent. Soon, Yang Jian landed, raising his right leg to use his foot to catch Li Lingshan's body. At this moment, Li Lingshan's clothes were torn, his hair disheveled, his face covered in blood, and his body appeared extremely feeble. Yang Jian slowly placed Li Lingtian down with one foot. Throughout, his expression didn't change, as if this battle hadn't given him any sense of achievement. Li Lingtian lay on the ground, barely opening his eyes. Yang Jian stood in front of him, looking down at him. For the first time, Li Lingtian saw someone from this angle, feeling almost crushed inside. He hadn't expected the battle to turn out this way. Yang Jian was faster, his fists and feet heavier, and his cultivation level was lower. He could feel that Yang Jian didn't even use spiritual power, relying solely on speed and qi to beat him. Why was it like this? Could it be that I am not the most talented in the world? Li Lingshan's eyes lost their sparkle, and he buried his face in the ground, his shoulders trembling. He cried. He couldn't accept his defeat. Guin walked over, and Yang Jian quickly saluted him. Seeing Yang Jian's respect towards Guin, Yang Ni's expression became more peculiar. Guin squatted beside Li Lingtian and said softly, "Your talent is indeed rare, but you must always maintain a reverence for the world. Remember, there are always people stronger than you. If your opponent today had been your enemy, you would be dead." Li Lingtian clenched his fists, his body trembling even more violently. Yang and I said nothing. After the initial shock, she even felt somewhat gloating. The whole journey, Li Lingshan's arrogance was unbearable for her, and seeing someone put him in his place was rather satisfying. She didn't like Li Lingtian, and had even less fondness for Empress Yang. Yang Jian remained silent. He felt he wasn't qualified to teach Li Lingtian. The only reason he was stronger was that he had a master that others didn't have. Guin took out an elixir and fed it to Li Lingtian. Li Lingtian slowly got up, turned towards Yang Jian, and even though his face was bloody, his expression was still stubborn. "I won't accept this. I will win next time," Li Lingtian said through gritted teeth. Yang Jian raised his hand, scaring Li Lingtian into retreating behind Guin. But on closer inspection, Yang Jian was simply saluting him. Li Lingtian, both relieved and embarrassed, wished he could find a hole to crawl into. Yang and I laughed. "With your current state, you still dare to challenge him again? Perhaps you should focus on becoming stronger first." Li Lingtian took a deep breath and looked at Guin. "Senior brother Gu, can I stay in your medicine valley?" He wanted to see how Yang Jian usually trained. All his life, he hadn't been lazy, and he even had no friends, dedicating himself entirely to cultivation. But this complete defeat was difficult to accept. "No problem. If you have any issues in the valley, go to Jinner. After all, he's technically your junior," Guin said with a smile, causing Li Lingtian to brighten up. Yang Jian felt a headache coming on. 10 years ago, he had heard Guin mention Li Lingtian, which gave him pressure. Now, it seemed Li Lingtian was just like this. His real opponent was still that senior brother he had never met. So, the four of them left the woods and returned to the third medicine valley. The disciples in the valley were curious about what had happened when they saw the previously high-spirited Li Lingtian looking so pitiful. Yang and I didn't stay long. After chatting with Guin for a while, she flew off to the intersect, seemingly carrying out a mission. After handing Li Lingtian over to Yang Jian, Guin went upstairs to read. Until evening, Li Lingtian, now dressed in clean clothes, walked out of his courtyard, not seeing Yang Jian, so he wandered around. Soon, he was attracted by some disciples playing chess and went over to watch. Unfortunately, neither Go nor Chinese chess interested him. His eyes were caught by the passing Blood Prison Great Saint. Blood Prison Great Saint was cursing, frustrated after failing to catch a white spirit rat. Li Lingtian approached and asked, "You, Oxhead, you seem pretty unique. What's your name?" Blood Prison Great Saint glared at him and replied, "Bull Demon King, ever heard of it?" After speaking, Blood Prison Great Saint continued on, ignoring Li Lingtian. He remembered Li Lingtian. 10 years ago, he thought Li Lingtian might be a remarkable figure. Who knew he'd be helpless in front of Yang Jian? Useless. Li Lingtian stood there, mumbling, "There's Yang Jian and Bull Demon King. Is Master Pewdie also here?" If there was no Master Pewdie, how could Yang Jian be so strong? But he didn't think of Guan as Master Pewdie because Guan didn't seem that strong. On a hot summer day, inside the Imperial study, Li Xiandao sat at the desk, frowning as he read the letters on the desk. After a while, a figure walked quickly in, came to the desk, and bowed deeply. This person was clad in intricate armor, exuding charisma, with a stern face and fierce eyes. This was Yi Yan, a disciple taken by Guan in the Mystic Valley. After a century, Yi Yan was no longer the ordinary youth he once was, but a general with a formidable presence. Li Xiandao asked, "How much do you know about your master?" Yi Yan frowned and asked, "My master? What happened to him?" He didn't answer immediately. Although he hadn't seen Guan for a long time, he remembered the grace given to him and wanted to protect his master even against Li Xiandao. Li Xiandao waved his hand, sending the letters on the desk to Yi Yan. Yi Yan took them and read carefully. His expression changed dramatically, showing shock. How is this possible? The Crown Prince's prowess is by no means simple, yet he was utterly defeated by a Foundation Establishment realm cultivator? Yang Jian, my master's disciple? Yi Yan muttered to himself. He had met Li Lingtian and even taught him spear techniques. Li Lingtian's talent once made him lament the unfairness of the heavens. He even suspected Li Lingtian was an immortal reincarnate. Last year, Li Lingtian had shown power comparable to the core formation realm. How could such a talent lose to a Foundation Establishment realm cultivator? Li Xiandao pondered. With Guan's abilities, he couldn't have taught such a disciple alone. Do you think someone more powerful is behind him? Though often troubled by Li Lingtian's arrogance, Li Xiandao hadn't expected such a crushing defeat. It left him feeling uneasy. Chapter 256 Former Lord of Divine Exotic City in the Imperial Study. Upon hearing Li Zuando's words, Yi Yan replied, "I am not sure either. When I left that year, I hadn't seen Master make acquaintances with any great cultivator." He was also puzzled in his heart. He felt that Mystic Valley had extraordinary chief fortune. Su Han, who had disturbed the Taizong dynasty's immortal cultivation world decades ago, was his senior brother. To this day, whenever he thought of Su Han, he couldn't help but feel emotional. Back then, he, Zhenqin, and Su Han followed Guan to the Third Medicine Valley to cultivate. Who could have imagined that they would each achieve such accomplishments? Although Su Han's life or death was unknown, the commotion he caused had already proven his strength. They were no longer the insignificant minor cultivators they once were. After hearing his words, Li Xiandao did not speak further but fell into deep thought. For a while, the Imperial study was engulfed in silence. Each harbored their own thoughts, wondering if there was a powerful figure behind Guan. After a long time, Li Xiandao spoke. "You may leave now. The negotiations with the Great Zhang dynasty are nearing conclusion. You need to prepare to go to sea. This matter concerns the 1,000-year plan of Taizong, and it must not be taken lightly." "Yes." Yi Yan accepted the order, then saluted and left. Li Xiandao gazed out the window, his eyes wandering. "I must advance to Mystic Heart soon, or many things cannot proceed." Li Xiandao thought silently. Compared to Li Lingtian's achievements, he cared more about his own. To this day, only Lvcien knew that he had hidden his cultivation level, and now even Lvcien was unsure of his true level. Li Zuando's ambitions were grand. He wanted to be an immortal emperor, eternally in power. For this, he needed strength to protect himself. Li Lingtian's suffering this setback was also good. It would make him more diligent in his cultivation, ensuring he didn't create trouble for his imperial authority. Thinking of this, Li Xiandao smiled. Yang Jian, not bad. I will look forward to your future. Under the blue sky and white clouds, among the mountains, Li Ye was meditating on the lake. He was bare-chested, surrounded by mist. His hair floated continuously, and his whole body exuded a powerful aura, causing the lake's surface to shimmer like a sword's light. A figure leaped over the towering mountains, descending from the sky and landing on the lake, causing a flurry of ripples. His feet did not touch the lake's surface. It was Zhang Buku. Zhang Buku wore a robe made of animal pelts, his long hair reaching his waist. His entire demeanor was wild. Hands on his hips, he laughed and said, "Brother Li, and how has caused another big commotion recently? Do you want to know?" Li Ye did not open his eyes, answering, "Go ahead. What has he done now?" The three of them joined the Star Sea congregations together. Although Li Ye held the divine exotic city and was renowned within the sect, his growth speed could not compare to Hao. Hao was the greatest genius in the history of the Supreme Sect, and it was the same in the Star Sea congregations. He made all other geniuses pale in comparison. He has mastered the flame primordial treasure body. It is said that this physique could dominate the mortal world in ancient times. Although the Star Sea congregations have the method of cultivation, he is the first person to succeed in tens of thousands of years. Zhang Buku sighed. Since ingesting a demon core, his talent had also transformed, making him a genius. But compared to Hao, he still fell short. When they met, it was always awkward since they both came from the Supreme Sect. They had to be polite, but Zhang Buku disliked Hao. This dislike had no reason. For some reason, looking at Hao's face always made him feel annoyed, as if he had seen Hao somewhere before. Li Ye opened his eyes, frowning. He had always regarded Hao as his goal, but the more he chased, the more powerless he felt. Hao seemed to be the protagonist of this world, making everyone else fade into insignificance. The flame primordial treasure body, he had heard of it. Once mastered, the person would transform into a radiant sun, invincible in the world. Zhang Buku continued, "The sect is planning to explore the sea-breaking rift today. I have signed up. Are you going?" Li Ye shook his head and said, "I still need to improve my cultivation level. I don't want to go. Of course, if you want me to accompany you, it's not impossible." Zhang Buku snorted, "I don't want you to come with me. Being with you is too unlucky. I mainly came to tell you this so you wouldn't be looking for me." Li Ye glared at him and replied irritably, "Hurry up and go. You're the unlucky one." The two started bickering again. When Zhang Buku mentioned Gu and Li Ye conceded. Zhang Buku left satisfied. Li Ye watched Zhang Buku's departing figure, cursing silently that when Zhang Buku returned, he would give him a good lesson. Another year of the Spring Festival had arrived. In the third Medicine Valley, the disciples were busy hanging lanterns and decorations. Li Lingtian was also bustling with the disciples, mainly following Yang Jian. Seeing Yang Jian busy, he had no choice but to follow. In the pavilion, Guan was discussing a peculiar book with Xinjin. The two were expressing their views, arguing vehemently, neither convincing the other. Suddenly, it seemed Guan sensed something, frowning. Xinjin noticed the change in his expression, waved her hand in front of him, and asked, "What? Are you angry?" Guan shook his head and said, "No, I just thought of something and got distracted." "Thinking about something? You don't respect me." Xinjin glared, angry. She stood up, put the book on the table into her storage bag, and then left. Guan did not stop her. He couldn't be bothered to cater to her whims. He sat back in the treasured chair that Shenzhen had occupied earlier, communicating with the divine exotic immortal spirit in his heart. "Are you sure?" he asked in his heart. The voice of the divine exotic immortal spirit sounded, "Sure. It's definitely his aura." Although I have never seen him, the city retains his aura. I cannot be mistaken. The former master of Divine Exotic City is in that rift. The rift it mentioned was the one that spanned the ocean. Its appearance had even led to rumors of a world-destroying sea tide. The Divine Exotic Immortal Spirit had just sensed the aura of the former master of Divine Exotic City from that rift. Guin wanted to know the former master's cultivation level from it, but unfortunately it did not know. In its words, the Divine Exotic City had been born after it left that person's hands. This was true for all immortal spirit treasures. They could only serve one master. Once the master perished, the immortal spirit would also vanish. At this moment, Leah was still in the Star Sea congregations, far from the ocean rift. Only the Divine Exotic Immortal Spirit sensed that aura. When Guin looked at the rift, he saw many cultivators fleeing from it, as if something terrifying was chasing them. When his divine sense approached the rift, he felt a powerful aura that deterred him from recklessly probing further. The presence that he could feel was strong. There might be a carefree primordial immortal hidden in the rift. Guin withdrew his divine sense, no longer paying attention to it. The world had countless major forces, and there were numerous great cultivators. As long as they didn't threaten him, he was too lazy to meddle. After all, that rift was extremely remote from the mainland, separated by 2 continents and countless islands. Guin chatted with the Divine Exotic Immortal Spirit for a while longer. Once he was sure that the former master could no longer control Divine Exotic City, he felt relieved. He got up and went downstairs. As he walked down the stairs, he saw the busy disciples in the valley, and a smile appeared on his face. The calamities in this world never cease, but if they can be delayed by a few decades, it can grant a generation a stable life. Guin thought this and then walked towards the place where the most disciples were gathered. Under an old tree, dozens of disciples were gathered, discussing fervently. Among them were 2 people playing Go, one of whom was the 9-Finger Divine Lord. The other was the best Go player in the valley, one of the senior disciples in the valley, respectfully addressed as Elder Lu. He had stayed in the 3rd Medicine Valley for 100 years, from youth to old age. Because of his modest cultivation talent, he never thought of leaving the valley. At this moment, Elder Lu was frowning deeply, with his right hand holding the Go piece trembling, hesitant to play. The 9-Finger Divine Lord's expression was calm, but he was internally sighing in relief. This old man's Go skills were too formidable. He almost lost. Since playing Go in the 3rd Medicine Valley, the 9-Finger Divine Lord had become fascinated with the game, feeling that it contained infinite mysteries similar to the essence of the heavenly Tao. Therefore, he frequently came to the 3rd Medicine Valley to play. Go was invented by Guin and had yet to be widely promoted. Currently, it was only popular in the Medicine Valley. Guin created Go merely out of boredom. He did not intend to promote it. Even in his past life, he was simply an enthusiast of the game. At this moment, Guin squeezed through the crowd and saw Elder Lu sweating profusely. He couldn't help but say, "Xiao Lu, why don't I play for you? Shameless wandering immortal, bullying my Medicine Valley mortals? Intolerable." Elder Lu looked up and saw it was Guin, then quickly stepped aside. The other disciples were excited. In their minds, Guin was the best Go player since he invented the game. As Guin sat down, the 9-Finger Divine Lord smiled and said, "Little friend, do you think there is still a chance in this game?" Guin laughed. "If you came 3 moves later, there would indeed be no hope." The smile on the 9-Finger Divine Lord's face froze instantly. A wandering immortal's prowess in Go lay in their ability to simulate countless possibilities in an instant, choosing the best moves. From the first move Elder Lu made, the 9-Finger Divine Lord had already seen the outcome. Knowing the rules of Go, the 9-Finger Divine Lord could surely win against ordinary folks. However, it was precisely because he could simulate countless possibilities that he appreciated the subtleties of the game. He did not play Go to win but to experience the process and comprehend his own Taoist sorcery within the game. He did not expect Guin to see through his strategy. Under his gaze, Guin placed a piece on the board, turning the tides instantly, making him frown. He immediately placed a piece, and Guwen followed suit. Unlike others who played slowly, these two played at lightning speed. They were competing in their ability to simulate. The disciples around them watched, barely daring to breathe. Li Lingtian also squeezed in to join the excitement. Seeing the aura of the two playing, he was interested in Go for the first time. One piece after another, the sound of pieces being placed formed a melody, exuding a sharp aura. Suddenly, the nine-fingered divine lord paused, withdrew his hand hanging in the air, placed the piece down and said, "I lost." As soon as he said this, cheers erupted around them. Elder Lu wiped the sweat off his forehead, revealing a broad smile. The nine-fingered divine lord stared at Guwen, as if trying to see through him. Though this boy had an extraordinary aura, his cultivation and physique were not impressive. How did he manage to win? Chapter 257. Variables. Night fell and fireworks rose in the third Medicine Valley, brilliant and beautiful. The pavilion area was filled with dining tables, with over 1,000 people toasting and drinking, making for a spectacular scene. Guwen ignored the nine-fingered divine lord's gaze and chatted with Yu Yingying next to him, inquiring about Lu Lingjun's situation. He had actually always been following up on Lu Lingjun. Lu Lingjun's ascension sect had already been established and had joined forces with the supreme sect to occupy an island. They were currently busy mining spirit mines. Overall, things were going smoothly. Yu Yingying had always been in correspondence with Lu Lingjun. In the immortal cultivation world, letters were either exchanged using spells or dharma treasures, or delivered by demon pets. Yu Yingying came from the Star Sea congregations and had communication means connected with the ocean. After chatting for a while, Guwen took the opportunity to leave and went to the Mystic Valley to visit the disciples there. It wasn't until late at night when the disciples returned to their rooms that he went to the Nianchu cave to celebrate the festival with Tian Yaoer and the other two girls. Unlike others, Tian Yaoer and the two girls no longer had family. They would follow him for their whole lives, so every year during festivals, Guwen would never forget them. While enjoying the delicacies, Guwen was also concerned about Tian Yaoer's cultivation. Tian Yaoer had now reached the 6th level of the divinity transformation realm. It was not slow progress at all. She was already talented, and with the continuous consumption of medicinal herbs and elixirs, her cultivation progressed rapidly. More than her cultivation level, Guwen was more concerned about her achievements in the primordial earth immortal skill and the limitless freedom step. Cultivation level is the main trunk of the tree, but spells and divine skills are the branches and leaves. Both are indispensable. Tian Yaoer was very proud of her cultivation achievements, holding her delicate nose high, looking quite complacent. Guwen was worried she might slack off, so he spoke about the cultivation progress of An Hao and Yang Jian, though he didn't mention their names, only referring to them as two disciples. As she listened, Tian Yaoer's head gradually lowered. Tian Qing and Tian Bai, sitting on either side of Guwen, listened as if they were hearing a story, occasionally exclaiming, making Tian Yaoer feel even worse. When Guwen finished, Tian Yaoer pouted and said, "What's so great about them? Sooner or later, I'll surpass them." Guwen laughed and said, "You are also considered my disciple. Why don't you formally acknowledge me as your master?" "No way. Absolutely not." Tian Yaoer stood up immediately, excitedly speaking with her eyes wide open and her teeth gritting, looking somewhat demonic rather than her usual cute self. Guwen helplessly said, "Why are you so agitated? If not, then not. I am unwilling to accept anyway." Tian Yaoer sat down and turned her head away. Tian Qing chuckled and said, "The young lady doesn't want to be a disciple. She wants to be the mistress." Hearing this, Tian Yaoer's pretty face turned a bright red. She wasn't angry, and Guwen noticed that she stealthily gave a thumbs up to Tian Qing, a very concealed action hiding under her sleeves. Tian Bai joined in the fun, teasing Tian Yaoer. Tian Yaoer tried to clear it up, but the more she explained, the worse it got. Guwen watched their staged performance and secretly sighed. Looks like I need to help them improve their acting skills in the future. It's too clumsy. It won't be reliable to let them handle tasks. That night, at their persistent request, Guwen chose to stay overnight. Under the tree, Guwen leaned against the trunk, holding a book in his hands. Tianyao was reading Journey to the West, but her mind was entirely on him. She looked at the mask on Guwen's face, wanting to take it off but afraid Guwen would get angry. Though their relationship was already close, she always feared losing everything. Even when acting spoiled, she gauged Guwen's tone, afraid of his displeasure. "You want to take off my mask?" Guwen suddenly asked. Tianyao instinctively wanted to deny it, but couldn't help nodding upon hearing his gentle tone. Upon hearing this, Guwen took off his mask and placed it on Tianyao's face. Tianyao hurriedly pulled off the mask, thinking Guwen was teasing her, only to realize that Guwen hadn't put on another mask. Seeing Guwen's handsome face, she was stunned. Because Guwen always wore a mask, she always thought the worst, imagining he had an ugly or frightening face. She didn't expect such good looks. The reason Guwen was willing to remove his mask was that after so many years of interaction, Tianyao was already completely isolated from external causes and effects. Even if she knew his true face, it wouldn't matter. Of course, the most important reason was that he was strong enough. Though not unmatched in the world, he could at least face all causes and effects on this land. "I know you've always wanted to see my face. Tonight, I'm letting you be happy. From tonight onwards, you must work harder in your cultivation. Stop overthinking. Since I've accepted you, I will not abandon you. You are destined to be the longest companion with me. Look to the long term. One day, I will take you out to travel and see the world. Like the green bull spirit under Lord Lao Zi of the Great Monad in Journey to the West, it could trouble Sun Wukong. I hope you can also stand alone in the future. Your strength is my honor." Guwen spoke sincerely. These words were from his heart. Li Lingtian observed the nine-fingered divine lord and thought to himself that the elders of the supreme sect should be quite powerful. Shouldn't they? Why not find an opportunity to spar with him? Li Lingtian urgently needed a victory to build his confidence. The cultivation of other disciples in the valley was too weak to mention. He couldn't bypass Yang Jian to challenge Guwen, so he set his sights on the nine-fingered divine lord. This old man liked playing chess with mortals. Maybe he could also spar with him, a junior. He could ask him to suppress his cultivation realm to the core formation realm. He wanted to see if he could fight across realms. Although losing to Yang Jian deeply frustrated him, he didn't think he lacked talent. He just chose the wrong opponent. He didn't believe he could choose wrong twice. If he couldn't even beat senior brother Gu in chess, then he surely wouldn't be better in combat. Thinking of this, Li Lingtian showed a silly smile on his face. Under the tree, the nine-fingered divine lord lifted his head and looked at Guwen, asking in a deep voice, "Impossible. I shouldn't have lost to you. Who exactly are you?" He was a wandering immortal. Why did he lose? Guwen looked up and smiled smugly, saying, "I am an immortal. What do you say to that?" "An immortal? Exactly. You can call me the chess immortal. Get lost." TCH. Guwen turned and left, his sleeves brushing away. Watching his back, the nine-fingered divine lord revealed a bitter smile. No matter how he looked at it, Guwen didn't seem like a disguised great cultivator. Though his cultivation was at the level of a wandering immortal, his vision far surpassed that realm. He couldn't help but shift his gaze back to the chessboard. Could it be that he hadn't truly understood the game of Go? Even after deducing countless possibilities, so what? Go was all about variability. The nine-fingered divine lord furrowed his brows, falling into deep thought. Spring passed and summer came, and the temperature of the world continued to rise. On this day, Guwen brought Yang Jian and Li Lingtian to Tianya Valley. He rode on the back of the blood prison Great Saint's bull, slowly moving forward. Li Lingtian followed behind, dispirited. Obviously, they could fly, but instead they had to walk. Was senior brother Gu intentionally tormenting him? But seeing Yang Jian walk calmly, he could only endure. He couldn't lose to Yang Jian in this regard. Rumble. Thunder roared in the distance, and Li Lingtian turned back to see storm clouds churning on the horizon. Yang Jian seemed to sense something, stopped, turned back to look, and frowned deeply. Li Lingtian walked over and asked in confusion, "What's wrong?" Yang Jian ignored him, turned, and followed the blood prison great saint. Li Lingtian felt hurt. Yang Jian's indifference always made him frustrated. He understood that, in Yang Jian's eyes, he wasn't worth mentioning. Yes, if he were Yang Jian, he wouldn't talk much with someone significantly weaker either. Yang Jian came up to Guan and asked, "Master, I have an uneasy feeling, as if something big is going to happen." Guan replied, "Perhaps indeed a disaster is looming." Yang Jian asked in confusion, "Could it be that the Seven Stars spirit realm hasn't given up?" Guan didn't answer but instructed, "Carefully sense it. I want to know what you can feel." Chapter 258 Immortal King's True Blood. After hearing the master's instructions, Yang Jian calmed his mind and carefully sensed the surroundings. His steps didn't stop as he followed the blood prison great saint. Li Lingtian followed behind, secretly curious. He frequently looked back at the thunder clouds in the sky, but he couldn't feel anything, which made him very frustrated. Could it be that he didn't even have as much insight as Yang Jian? The speed at which the thunder clouds swept across the sky was fast. Before Guan and the others reached Tianya Valley, the thunder clouds had already swept over their heads, with torrential rain about to pour down. Yang Jian looked up at Guan and said, "Master, I feel the breath of destruction. Everything in heaven and earth might be annihilated." These words made Li Lingtian's expression strange. Is it really that mystical? He suddenly thought that Guan was not simple, profound, and unfathomable. Could Guan be hiding even greater secrets? Was it because the emperor and the crown prince knew something that they favored senior brother Gu? Li Lingtian pondered. Guan didn't continue the conversation but patted the blood prison great saint's ox back, urging him to sprint. "Let's see who gets to Tianya Valley first." Guan left these words, and the blood prison great saint leapt forward, with the ox hooves creating wind, moving majestically, quickly rushing out of the forest. Yang Jian and Li Lingtian hurried to catch up. At the mention of a competition, Li Lingtian got excited, but to his dismay, he found himself indeed the slowest. Yang Jian was one thing, but what was the background of this uncouth ox head, and why was it so fast? Inside Tianya Valley, Guan dismounted from the blood prison great saint's back and led Yang Jian towards the cluster of pavilions. Li Lingtian didn't follow. His gaze was fixed on the blood prison great saint, his eyes bloodshot. The blood prison great saint raised his ox head, glanced at him disdainfully, and spat out a word that nearly drove him mad. "Trash!" Li Lingtian was livid, watching the blood prison great saint's back, wanting to curse back, but the words were stuck in his throat and wouldn't come out. He suddenly started doubting his life. Was he really trash? Sure, he was stronger than many, surpassing disciples of Medicine Valley and the Royal Palace, but in the grand scheme of the world, how big were those places? He remembered Guan's words, "There is always someone better out there." The more Li Lingtian thought about it, the more bewildered he became, standing dazedly in place. This time, Guan brought Yang Jian because Li Shendao wanted to meet him. He wasn't afraid of Li Shendao scheming, having gotten to know him over the years. He respected Li Zuando's character, and since they were like-minded individuals, they always believed themselves to be the strongest. When Li Shendao saw Yang Jian, he was amazed by his talent and growing fond of him. He was very enthusiastic in his questioning, showing extreme concern, which Guan thought surpassed his previous treatment of himself. When Li Lingtian entered the courtyard and saw this scene, he felt even worse. After chatting for over an ancient hour, Li Shendao decided to give Yang Jian a gift, asking what he wanted. Yang Jian instinctively looked at Guan, which intrigued Li Shendao. What had Guan done to enamor Yang Jian like this? He had always believed that someone more formidable was behind Guan, and that Guan was just a guise. He had suspected Gu En of hiding his strength, but having known him since the age of 15, nothing could have been faked. Knowing Li Zuando's identity, Yang Jian said, "I would like a weapon I can wield comfortably, heavier but not too large." Li Xiandao laughed. "Are you serious, Yang Jian?" Yang Jian, showing an embarrassed look for the first time, nodded in agreement. Li Xiandao immediately agreed, promising to give him a satisfactory weapon within 3 years. In the end, Li Xiandao didn't extend any invitations or try to recruit Yang Jian. Gu En, who had earlier considered recruiting Yang Jian for the military, realized he had been overthinking. As Gu En prepared to leave, Li Xiandao instructed Li Lingtian to continue following him. Gu En didn't refuse, thinking that in the Third Medicine Valley with so many people, one more mouth wouldn't matter. Li Xiandao likely didn't expect him to guide Li Lingtian in anything specific. Cranes flew across the sky in rows, and the sea breeze blew into the immortal-seeking island. Gu En walked through the streets with Yang Jian, and Hu Shaojian led them beside Gu En. Today marked Gu En's first time bringing Yang Jian to Immortal-Seeking Island, where Yang Jian looked around in amazement, finding everything novel. He was curious about how far this island was from the Supreme Sect. Gu En instructed Hu Shaojian to introduce Immortal-Seeking Island to Yang Jian. Hu Shaojian enthusiastically complied, leaving a good impression on Yang Jian. The more Yang Jian learned about Immortal-Seeking Island, the more astonished he became. Compared to the Supreme Sect, Immortal-Seeking Island seemed like a place of true immortals, with so many immortals coming and going frequently. As Hu Shaojian introduced the island, he also guided Gu En to purchase high-rank medicinal herb seeds. 2 ancient hours later, Gu En brought them to Sage Tang Hai's residence. Over the years, Hu Shaojian had become one of Gu An's people. During Gu An's absences, Sage Tang Hai had taken good care of him, so he was familiar with the residence. Today, many immortal path cultivators were in the residence, with more than 10 loose immortals and over 40 in the Nirvana realm. These cultivators were Sage Tang Hai's friends, who were all familiar with Gu En. Not only was Gu En a loose immortal, but his wealth was also astonishing. When discussing medicinal herb transactions on Immortal-Seeking Island, Meng Lang's name often came up, making many speculate he had a powerful force behind him. Otherwise, why would he need such a vast amount of medicinal herbs? The great cultivators were very enthusiastic toward Gu An's disciple, offering various meeting gifts. Gu En had Yang Jian accept them all, as he was equally generous when these cultivators brought their disciples to visit, reciprocating the gesture. Soon, the 3 of them sat down at their own table. Hu Shaojian whispered, "The sea-breaking rift has brought calamity. It is said that a peerless evil demon is hidden within. Countless cultivators have perished in the seabed, and its true identity remains unknown." Gu En asked, "Have the great sects taken any action?" He could see the situation at the sea-breaking rift, where many cultivators and demons were heading right now. The sea-breaking rift, known as the sign of the world-destroying sea tide, is also believed by many to hold opportunities since heaven and earth had been submerged by the ocean numerous times. Each time, an era's immortal cultivation civilization sank to the seabed. Yes, there's action from the star sea congregations and other great sects, but there's been no success. Instead, more people are dying. Hu Shaojian continued. Yang Jian sat on the side, listening attentively. After chatting for a while, Hu Shaojian began discussing the sea's happenings. To Yang Jian's surprise, he heard a familiar name from his mouth. And how? Having cultivated the flame primordial treasure body, and Hao's reputation soared, with everyone in awe of his incredible talent. Yang Jian had heard that and Hao had gone to the star sea congregations to cultivate. He didn't expect him to become so renowned at sea. As a servant disciple of the Third Medicine Valley, Yang Jian knew little about and Hao, only that he was the strongest talent in the Supreme Sect's history and the sect leader's disciple. To Yang Jian, and Hao was always a legendary figure. He wondered what and Hao's elegance was like. Yang Jian suddenly felt curious. Could it be that his master knew and Hao? And Hao was so powerful. It didn't seem like someone the Supreme Sect could cultivate. He had researched the Supreme Sect, and before Sword Venerable Fudeo's rise, there wasn't even one Mystic Heart Realm member. There were rumors about and how being Sword Venerable Fudeo's disciple, but they were mostly speculations. Such rumors weren't uncommon. The immortal cultivation world was full of those suspected to be the Sword Venerable's disciples. If Anhao was indeed his unseen senior brother, he would be convinced because Anhao was the most brilliant talent he had heard of. The master must be extremely fond of the senior brother. Yang Jian thought silently as he looked at Guan. Although he had been transformed now, deep down he still harbored an inferiority complex. He wasn't born a genius. His talent was crafted by his master, changing his fate against heaven. So he always feared that everything he had could disappear. His mentality was quite similar to Tian Yaoer. Noticing Yang Jian's gaze, Guan didn't respond. After a while, Sage Tang Hai appeared, greeted everyone, and began explaining the purpose of the gathering. It concerned the sea-breaking rift. Upon hearing these 5 words, the cultivators began discussing fervently. Sage Tang Hai scanned the room and said in a low voice, "I received information that at the bottom of the sea-breaking rift lies a hidden world, dangerous yet containing the cave of an ancient, immortal king. In the deep-sea spirit palace, someone obtained the immortal king's true blood, transforming their body and comprehending divine skills, and it was by these skills they fought their way out." The cultivators couldn't help but be moved. No one knew the realm of an immortal king, but throughout history, they were always the zenith of the immortal path, with only the greatest of each era qualifying to become immortal kings. Such an opportunity, how could they not be tempted? The higher the cultivation, the more one needed such opportunities. The loose immortals present may be high and mighty on immortal-seeking island, but when it came to higher realms, they had no direction. Not just breaking major realms, even breaking a minor realm depended on fortune and opportunity. I plan to explore it, and those willing to join may sign up. I will share the information when we depart. This is extremely dangerous, and I can't guarantee safety. Think it over carefully. There is no obligation based on our relationships. Sage Tang Hai spoke sincerely. Over the years, besides holding auctions, he had occasionally organized such expeditions. Though not always successful, there were no bad rumors about him, and his character was trustworthy. The cultivators began discussing among themselves. Sage Tang Hai did not specifically invite Guan, as every attendee was personally invited. Once inside, Guan wasn't particularly significant. In fact, everyone was equally important. Ultimately, Guan didn't sign up while a third of the attendees did, while more chose to avoid the risks due to their long lifespans. After the gathering concluded, Guan led Yang Jian back. Returning to the third Medicine Valley, Yang Jian still felt like it was a dream. This journey had been too surreal, broadening his horizons. This world was vast, and the Supreme Sect was just a drop in the ocean. Guan began to patrol the Medicine Valley, picking the matured herbs. He wondered if he could accumulate 100 million years of lifespan before the calamity struck. From his current perspective, the sea-breaking rift wasn't enough to shake the great heavenly spirit land, which harbored many terrifying forces. Chapter 259 Reincarnation. What Guan saw and heard on Immortal-Seeking Island was just a microcosm of the great forces at sea. Although the sea-breaking rift had the appearance of fierce demons, it also contained opportunities that countless cultivators and demons pursued eagerly. However, as long as this matter didn't affect Guan, he was too lazy to care. Even if people he knew ventured into the sea-breaking rift, he would not stop them. Everyone had their own choices, and during the previous calamities on the continent, many people he knew were also involved. Opportunities were always obtained through struggle and adventure. When the ocean raised storms, the 155-year-old Guan was still living a farming life. Occasionally, he used his divine sense to look at the sea-breaking rift and then at outer heaven. The influence of this sea-breaking rift was great. Guan saw that recently more and more heaven and earth flying immortals had returned from outer heaven. There were also increasing conflicts on the ocean. When someone brought out treasures from the sea-breaking rift, the bloodshed had already begun. Moreover, Gu noticed a special situation that added more variables to this catastrophe and made him more wary of the sea-breaking rift. The time came to late autumn. Gu was chatting with Yilan. The two of them stood in front of a wooden fence, watching the disciples sweep away the fallen leaves. Unifying the world is a good thing. As for whether to follow the dynasty northward, that's up to you, Gu said. The Taizong dynasty was about to unify the world. Li Xiandao invited the Supreme Sect to send people north to discuss with the great Zhang dynasty, firstly to show support, and secondly to go north together and establish a base in the former demon lands. Before the Heavenly Ranking Conference, the Supreme Sect's northern plans were always delayed, with someone secretly sabotaging them. Because of this, the Supreme Sect had sacrificed some disciples. Now no force dared to oppose the Supreme Sect, and the Supreme Sect was also preparing to establish a subsect in the north. Yilan was talking about going to the subsect. If she went to the subsect, her status and position would be promoted, and she was very tempted. If she didn't go with her current cultivation level, she could only be an elder in the inner sect, but the power she would obtain would be small. Yilan hesitated. I really want to go, but I'm afraid I won't see you as often in the future. Guan laughed and said, that's just the early stage. Once the teleportation array is built, you'll be able to see me whenever you want. Although Yilan liked him, her life was not only about Guan. She couldn't revolve around him, and he also hoped that Yilan could live more wonderfully. The splendor of life, romantic love, was just a part of it. The blood prison Great Saint's speed was very fast, and they soon arrived in front of the Heavenly Repair Platform. Compared to 10 years ago, the Heavenly Repair Platform was even more bustling, with cultivators of varying cultivation levels, from the Qi cultivation realm to loose immortal realm on the platform. Yes, there were loose immortals and not just one. They all came from overseas. They first expressed their respect to the Sword Venerable Fudao, and then openly ascended to the Heavenly Repair Platform to comprehend the sword intent of the Sword Venerable Fudao. Years ago, Guan had secretly enhanced the sword intent contained within the words, righteous path. Guan dismounted and walked up to the Heavenly Repair Platform. The Bull Demon King did not ascend the platform, as mounts and demon pets were not permitted to ascend, for fear of offending the Sword Venerable Fudao. At this moment, more and more people were gathering around the heaven-cutting axe. The news had spread that an overseas loose immortal had come to challenge the heaven-cutting axe. Over the years, loose immortals were no longer a mysterious term within the Supreme Sect. Many people knew that loose immortals represented a realm, signifying immortals and the highest realm they currently recognized. Why currently? Because the immortal cultivation world's development speed was too fast. Who knew if a higher realm name might emerge in 10 years? Of course, the Mahayana realm was still a revered existence. Zuo stood beside the heaven-cutting axe, holding the investiture of the gods. Although his eyes were on the book, he was clearly distracted. This overseas loose immortal was the person Lu Lingjun had brought, her master whom she had worshipped at sea. Guan joined the crowd and used lifespan detection on that person. Holy Mother of Western Spirit, Loose Immortal Realm 8th Floor, 1-8907/24000/150000. A maximum lifespan of 150,000 years meant that the Holy Mother of Western Spirit could reach the wandering immortal realm. Even in the sea area where Immortal Seeking Island was located, wandering immortals were exalted beings, rarely seen. The Holy Mother of Western Spirit wore a purple robe, with long white hair tied up under a bejeweled golden crown. A green scarf coiled around her elbow. Standing there, she exuded a vast pressure, inspiring awe. Although she had white hair, her appearance was youthful and beautiful, though her imposing presence made it easy to overlook this. The Holy Mother of Western Spirit approached the heaven-cutting axe and examined it closely. She came to this continent specifically for Sword Venerable Fudao. This was one of the reasons she took Lu Lingjun as her disciple. Overseas great cultivators had a deeper understanding of the destruction of the seven-star spirit realm. Sword Venerable Fudao was undoubtedly the most powerful cultivator she had heard of so far. How could she not be interested? Zuijian, seeing her hesitation, said impatiently, "Hurry up, there are people waiting. When the ancient hour arrives, not even the lord of a holy land can make an exception. Loose immortal or whatever immortal in the supreme sect, everyone had to follow the rules." The Holy Mother of Western Spirit was not angered. She raised her right hand, her snow-white palm reaching out to grasp the heaven-cutting axe. She could feel that the weight was not from the heaven-cutting axe itself, but from the vast mana within it. After 2 attempts, she gave up and turned to leave. This disappointed the spectators. There was little commotion. They didn't expect the Holy Mother of Western Spirit to succeed, just wanted to see the lofty immortal in a moment of embarrassment. Lu Lingjun exchanged a few words with the Holy Mother of Western Spirit, and then was about to leave when her eyes suddenly caught Guin. "Guin, why are you here?" Lu Lingjun transmitted her voice to Guin while waving to him. Chapter 260. Astonishing heaven and sea waves. Terrifying treasure body. Seeing Lu Lingjun wave her hand, Guin could only walk up to her. He cupped his fists and saluted the Holy Mother of Western Spirit, as basic courtesies should at least be observed with a loose immortal. The Holy Mother of Western Spirit slightly nodded, without saying anything. Lu Lingjun then pulled Guin along, and after descending from the heavenly repair platform, she took a storage bag from her waistbelt and handed it to him. "I won't be returning to Medicine Valley. This is something I brought for you from overseas," Lu Lingjun said softly. Guin nodded and did not question what she planned to do next. He simply told her if she ever needed his help, she could always find him in the 3rd Medicine Valley. Lu Lingjun smiled, then left with the Holy Mother of Western Spirit. Watching Lu Lingjun's departing figure, Guin thought that it seemed she was gradually distancing herself from the 3rd Medicine Valley. After all, she was now the sect leader, and how could she possibly reside long-term in Medicine Valley, let alone have her loose immortal master live with servant disciples? The blood prison great saint walked over, secretly surprised. His master claimed to be a loose immortal, but a loose immortal could not possibly lift the heaven-cutting axe. He asked no more questions, thinking it was better for Guin to be stronger, as it meant his current situation was a blessing rather than a curse. Guin turned and left, planning to wander around the outer gate city. He could feel that the Holy Mother of Western Spirit's arrival was aimed at Sword Venerable Fudao, and earlier she had tried to lift the heaven-cutting axe, intending to connect with Sword Venerable Fudao. But he had no desire to meet the Holy Mother of Western Spirit. It was easy to guess that it probably had to do with the sea-breaking rift. 10 years had passed, and the disaster caused by the sea-breaking rift had only grown worse. Besides mysterious fierce demons, these years had also seen the appearance of beings called divine exotic resentful ghosts from the sea-breaking rift. Divine exotic resentful ghosts were immortal and could only be sealed. There were sects that had been massacred by these beings. The most fearsome thing was that a wandering immortal great cultivator from the Star Sea congregations had ventured into the sea-breaking rift, turned into a divine exotic resentful ghost, returned to the sea, acted recklessly, and slaughtered countless souls, forcing the Star Sea congregations to use Immortal Path supreme treasures to suppress him. Various rumors about the sea-breaking rift began to spread. Liya, who owned Divine Exotic City, was also being pressured, with many wanting to take his Divine Exotic City, but fortunately, the Star Sea congregations were strong enough to protect him. Guin sensed a massive amount of eerie energy rising from the depths of the sea-breaking rift, predicting the emergence of divine exotic resentful ghosts. Divine exotic resentful ghosts were different from the divine soul demons of Divine Exotic City. They had their own spiritual wisdom and even retained memories of their former selves, but their personalities had drastically changed. They killed any living spirits they encountered, which caused the turmoil in the Seabast immortal cultivation world. The strength of divine exotic resentful ghosts was not the frightening part. The terror lay in their retained spiritual wisdom and memories, all of which had now turned against living spirits, hence the widespread fear. Having spiritual wisdom meant they could establish rules and even posed the possibility of overturning the mortal world. Guwen rose, realizing he could not appear too indifferent, as the entire valley was in shock and he had to cooperate with the rest. He wondered whether slaying the divine, exotic, resentful ghosts could extend his lifespan. If so, it might be worth intervening early. Yang Jian ran over, standing next to him, and whispered, "Master, I just had an illusion of being attacked by many demons and ghosts." Fear flashed in his eyes. It was not simply an illusion. He had felt as though he had experienced a near-death event. Somewhere in the unseen, it seemed as if something terrifying was approaching him. Guwen looked at Yang Jian and suddenly noticed that his karma had become blurred. He could no longer glimpse Yang Jian's past through their karmic connection. "Don't worry. Just stay by my side. What could happen? Focus on your cultivation," Guwen reassured him. Actually, he himself was unsure of the reason behind it. Although he was a carefree primordial immortal, he had only lived for 166 years and did not know much about the world. He could see through the heaven and earth rules, but he had not yet reached the point of omniscience. He guessed that the visions Yang Jian saw might be related to his physique. After all, the immortal-seeking Taoist had said Yang Jian had some kind of ancient treasure body. Hearing Gu An's reassurance, Yang Jian immediately felt at ease. Right, with Master around, nothing could happen to him. Guwen then walked toward where his disciples were gathered, intending to discuss the matter with everyone and maintain his image as a core formation realm cultivator. At noon, Immortal-Seeking Island. In a courtyard, the immortal-seeking Taoist looked at Guwen with a peculiar expression. He poured a cup of wine for Guwen and asked, "How did Taoist friend Meng know I was here?" He had been back at Immortal-Seeking Island for many years but had stayed in his residence without going out. Guwen replied, "I knew when you first returned. Back then, a lot of people were aware. I came to see you today because my disciple encountered a problem." Upon hearing it concerned Yang Jian, the immortal-seeking Taoist lost interest in questioning how Guwen knew he was on the island and asked about the issue instead. Guwen did not hold anything back. After listening, the immortal-seeking Taoist's expression became complicated. He sighed and said, "Ancient treasure bodies have a self-protection instinct. His treasure body must have sensed danger, likely related to the sea-breaking rift. There may be another treasure body hidden there. I have heard that ancient treasure bodies have a competitive and perceptive nature among themselves, especially innate ancient treasure bodies which can sense each other's existence and will attempt to devour one another. If that treasure body does come from the sea-breaking rift, it might be a deceased ancient strongman who is turned into a divine, exotic, resentful ghost. In that case, it will be a big problem." He had returned to Immortal-Seeking Island to avoid catastrophe. At this moment, he even considered fleeing Immortal-Seeking Island because he feared Guwen might bring Yang Jian along. Admiration aside, the immortal-seeking Taoist would not die for Yang Jian. Not his disciple. Even if it were his disciple, he would abandon them. The immortal-seeking Taoist looked at Guwen, hesitating to speak, wanting to persuade Guwen to give up on Yang Jian, but he felt that saying so would be pointless. Guwen would weigh the situation himself, and saying more would only make him unhappy. Guwen became thoughtful. The tsunami that had erupted yesterday continued to rise. Cultivators tried to stop it but had no success. The waves contained some powerful force that neutralized all spiritual power and mana along the way. 1 day passed, and the wave's crest had already surpassed 1,000 zhang. 1,000 zhang high wave was incredibly imposing, swallowing countless sea islands along its path. Currently, wandering immortals of the star sea congregations were still attempting to hold back the waves but without success. The immortal-seeking Taoist saw Gu and was deep in thought and did not disturb him, leisurely playing with his wine cup. After a while, Guwen thanked the immortal-seeking Taoist and then stood up to leave. The immortal-seeking Taoist did not try to keep him, realizing that Gu An's visit had provided more information. The thought of an ancient treasure body reaching completion and emerging filled him with dread. No, he had to escape. Another wave had formed, and the banner itself had been tainted by the force within the wave, forcing the Star Sea congregations to retract this immortal path's supreme treasure. At this moment, Chi Jiuxio's pupils suddenly dilated, his face showing a look of terror. In the dim sea wave he saw a figure, 1,000 meters tall, only faintly visible when lightning flashed. It was not just him. More and more people saw that figure. Anyone who beheld it felt a suffocating pressure in their chest. For over 100,000 cultivators had gathered to block this wave, with the lowest cultivation level being Mystic Heart Realm, and over 10,000 Immortal Path cultivators. Even such power could not shake the wave's momentum. How could they not despair? More and more cultivators felt beaten down, their will to fight waning. Seeing the mysterious 1,000-foot-tall figure in the wave made them even more eager to escape immediately. Chapter 262. It is Sword Venerable Fudao. As noon approached, Guan arrived at Mystic Valley. It had been 2 days since the sea-breaking rift had erupted with waves, and now it was the 3rd day. Guan was about to gather medicinal herbs when he suddenly sensed something. He sighed softly, then continued harvesting. He had already felt a powerful force approaching from afar. Originally, Guan didn't want to concern himself with the survival of the 2 distant continents. The waves would have to pass through these 2 continents before reaching his own, and they were still very far away. But now, a dangerous aura had emerged from within the waves, forcing him to change his strategy. He couldn't wait until the force behind the catastrophe neared his continent before acting. If that happened, it would easily lead to unexpected changes. The farther the catastrophe remained from the Supreme Sect, the more room he would have to operate. He couldn't fight on the continent itself, where he would have to consider the well-being of all living things. As the catastrophe progressed, the entire ocean had become aware of the existence of the divine exotic resentful ghost. The sea-breaking rift was definitely not a natural calamity. Deep within it lay a force poised to overturn the mortal world. Whether Guan intervened or not, this would be a disaster the entire ocean needed to face together. Guan continued gathering medicinal herbs while pondering how to act. Lu Jujia, the chief disciple of Mystic Valley, approached and softly asked, "Senior brother, I've heard there is a disaster at sea that could potentially affect our continent. What should Mystic Valley do?" From his words, it was clear how much the Supreme Sect had progressed over the years. The disaster at sea had only been ongoing for 3 days, yet word of it had already spread within the sect. In the past, let alone 3 days, as long as the disaster didn't make landfall, inner sect disciples could go their entire lives without knowing. Naturally, we should adhere to our duties, cultivate diligently, and provide the best medicinal herbs. That is the greatest responsibility we can bear, Guan replied nonchalantly. Lu Jujia nodded. In truth, he just wanted to gauge his senior brother's attitude. After all, his senior brother had connections within the inner sect and would certainly know more than they did. Since his senior brother was unperturbed, he saw no reason to worry and could reassure the valley's disciples. After Lu Jujia left, Guan continued picking herbs. 30 minutes later, Guan arrived at the eastern cliff of Mystic Valley, with the Blood Prison Great Saint following behind. "Master, what brings us here?" The Blood Prison Great Saint asked curiously, noticing Guan playing with a leaf. Guan stood at the edge of the cliff, looking toward the horizon. If he got too emotionally attached, he would have to help her eventually, which would be too troublesome. Chapter 263. Million years rarely seen Guan did not put all his strength into it, but it was enough to disperse the power within the giant wave and restore calm to the sea around the sea-breaking rift. As for the calamity on the other side of the tidal wave, Guan was too lazy to care. He did not believe that no one over there could stop the waves. Even if Guan did not intervene, he thought that there were powerful beings in the ocean capable of acting. It was just the timing was hard to gauge. perhaps after the Supreme Sect was submerged. The facts turned out just as he had guessed. 2 days later, Guin saw a mysterious great cultivator cast a spell to scatter the waves on the other side of the sea-breaking rift. Although it was not enough to make him apprehensive, he could confirm that person was the carefree primordial immortal. After dispersing the waves, that carefree primordial immortal disappeared. This land indeed hid many powerful figures. The higher the realm, the more mysterious they were. Some like Guin who had hidden in the city, while others secluded themselves in caves, ignoring worldly affairs. Previously, Guin had explored this land, and there were quite a few places he could not see through at a glance. 3 days later, news from the sea reached the Supreme Sect. Sword Venerable Fudao acted and killed a powerful divine exotic resentful ghost, resolving the calamity. Supreme Sect was instantly in an uproar, the news spreading quickly. Guin was still reading in the pavilion when he heard the disciples discussing it. He did not go downstairs but continued reading. This intervention did not give him a sense of accomplishment. He thought he could be happy when the sea-breaking rift disappeared. However, near dusk, an event occurred that left Guin helpless. It was that Yu Yingying, who had left a few days ago, had returned. Upon her return, she immediately found Guin and eagerly shared the situation she had learned, her tone full of admiration and respect for Sword Venerable Fudao. She understood the situation more clearly. It was said that the sea-breaking rift erupted with waves that could sweep through heaven and earth, hiding a divine exotic resentful ghost that even the star sea congregations could not deal with. She also made a point of explaining the divine exotic resentful ghost, fearful that Guin did not know how terrifying this thing was. Guin cooperated with her, showing nervousness when talking about the calamity and divine exotic resentful ghost. When she mentioned Sword Venerable Fudao, he became excited, greatly satisfying her emotional needs. This event had a huge impact on Yu Yingying, and she had to find someone to talk to, preferably a Supreme Sect disciple. She wanted the Supreme Sect disciples to be grateful and to know how strong Sword Venerable Fudao was. Furthermore, Guin had also seen many transcendent powers before, none of which star sea congregations or seven-star spirit realm could compare to. Star sea congregations were rulers of the ocean, but there were many rulers. With Guin's realm, he could already glimpse the chief fortune of sects and forces, and from the strength of the chief fortune, the Supreme Sect was less than 1/10,000th of the star sea congregations, and the star sea congregations were likewise less than 1/10,000th of that immortal spirit dynasty. Guin guessed those true first-rate powers of the world also had deployments in outer heaven. They could access more resources, nothing the star sea congregations could compare to. The commotion caused by Sword Venerable Fudao did not affect Guin. However, he began spending more time teaching Yang Jian. Ever since he dispersed the waves, Yang Jian had been experiencing more frequent visions, seriously affecting his cultivation. Once, while Guin was instructing Yang Jian in his cultivation, Yang Jian suddenly fell into a daze. Guin had to shake him awake, drenched in cold sweat. Yang Jian had seen himself being devoured, utterly powerless to resist, and the intense pain was not an illusion but a real sensation to his flesh. Unfortunately, Guin could not deduce the source of the visions through cause and effect. Time passed day by day. The year-end arrived. Winter snow covered the land and mountains. In the forest 100 miles outside Mystic Valley, Guin was instructing Yang Jian in the limitless freedom step. Yang Jian possessed high talent and comprehension, but limitless freedom step was equally profound. Mastering it was challenging even for him. After a maneuver, Yang Jian almost crashed into a tree, but he stabilized himself just in time. He turned to look at Guin, about to speak, but suddenly frowned. He clutched his head with both hands and unexpectedly knelt in the snow. Guin sensed something was wrong and immediately used his mana to isolate this section of the forest, preventing any unusual occurrences from alarming the Supreme Sect. He approached Yang Jian and placed his right hand on Yang Jian's shoulder, using his own mana to assist him. In an instant, Guin felt an unknown force of cause and effect attacking. He could resist, but he hesitated for a moment and pretended to be affected. His mind was drawn into a mysterious illusion realm, with Yang Jian's consciousness present as well. Yang Jian sighed in relief upon seeing his master's figure beside him. He was about to speak but suddenly felt something and turned his head. Ahead, a pitch-black shadow appeared, walking out from the expansive snow, seemingly wearing some kind of armor based on its shape. Mystic Gang Dominator Body, a rare sight in a million years. A cold voice echoed from the front, filled with greed. Listening closely, it seemed to swallow something, chilling those who heard it to their bones. Chapter 264. You die, or I perish. Mystic Gang Dominator Body. This was the first time Gu En had heard of Yang Jian's physique by name, which made him even more interested in the mysterious shadow. This person must be the great achievement ancient treasure body mentioned by the immortal seeking Taoist. The illusion was still a world of ice and snow, and the shadow ahead appeared even more terrifying amidst the swirling snowflakes. Yang Jian gritted his teeth and asked, "Who are you, and why do you keep entangling me?" Obviously, he had seen this figure in illusions before. Normally, he would be afraid, but with his master by his side, his courage swelled, leaving him only with anger. The shadow stopped, opened a pair of cold eyes, and their gaze landed on Yang Jian, making his heart tremble. You and I are both treasure bodies, nurtured by the chi fortune of heaven and earth. Your dominator body is stronger than ordinary treasure bodies, which makes the seat quite fond of you. 1,000,000 years ago, this seat also consumed a mystic gang dominator body, greatly boosting my chi blood, leaving a lingering taste until now. The shadow lamented, as if reminiscing about the past. His words made Yang Jian shudder with fear. Did this guy want to eat him? Gu En took a step forward and said, "State your name, and let's see if your reputation has left any mark in this mortal world." The shadow's gaze shifted to Gu En, smiling. "This seat is named Impermanence Tian. Have you ever heard of it?" Impermanence Tian? Gu En fell into deep thought, having never heard this name before. Impermanence Tian continued to stare at Yang Jian and said, "This seat will soon descend upon this mortal world. I will put you last. After I consume the other treasure bodies, I will come for you. You have nowhere to run. Even if you escape to outer heaven, this seat will find you. Your only chance is to cultivate diligently and unleash the mysteries of the mystic gang dominator body to become stronger. You die or I perish." Yang Jian gritted his teeth, though panicked inside. With his master nearby, he didn't want to show fear. He said in a deep voice, "Then come, let me see what you can do." Impermanence Tian laughed out loud, turned, and disappeared into the vast snow. This illusion created by the power of cause and effect shattered along with it. Yang Jian opened his eyes to find his master standing before him. Gu En helped him up and said, "He has declared battle upon you, and will likely no longer interfere with you. You can cultivate in peace now." In the illusion realm, Gu En couldn't perform lifespan detection on Impermanence Tian. But the power of cause and effect from the other side didn't seem unbeatable, so he remained calm. Yang Jian asked worriedly, "Master, should I leave Medicine Valley so as to—" "Nonsense! Focus on cultivating." LV Batian remained indifferent to the Ji family, but vice sect leader Ji Hantian still held a position. Therefore, Ji Hantian arranged for the Ji family to stay in the subsects, aiding in their construction. The rapid development of the subsects could not disregard the contributions of the Ji family. "Do you remember the third miss of the Ji family, Ji Xiaoyu?" LV Batian suddenly asked. Gu En nodded, but LV Batian's next words caused his face to change drastically. Ji Xiaoyu had died within the Seven Stars spirit realm, precisely on the day sword Venerable Fudao swept through the realm. LV Batian sighed, observing Gu En's reaction. Gu En displayed a range of emotions from shock and sorrow to anger, finally turning into a somber expression. He fell into silence and began pouring himself a drink. Could it be that this lad liked Ji Xiaoyu? Indeed, Guan's entry into the Supreme Sect was arranged by Ji Xiaoyu, and in terms of appearance, Ji Xiaoyu was undoubtedly a rare beauty. LV Batian thought as he watched Gu and secretly praised himself for his acting skills, capable of conveying emotions that could influence others. The room fell silent. For a long while, LV Batian broke the silence. Old acquaintances have gone. On the path to immortality, you're bound to experience these matters. By the way, there's another matter, quite intriguing actually. What is it? Guan raised his eyes to look at him and asked. LV Batian replied, another girl of heavenly pride has appeared in the Ji family, also named Ji Xiaoyu. If I hadn't seen this girl, I would have thought it was the previous Ji Xiaoyu, but they were born in different branches of the Ji family, and her talent surpasses that of the former Ji Xiaoyu. Curious, Guan asked. Both called Ji Xiaoyu and both highly talented. Could it be the same person through possession or reincarnation? LV Batian shook his head. I don't think so. She's named Ji Xiaoyu because she also possesses a primordial Taoist talisman. The Ji family named her in memory of the former Ji Xiaoyu. Judging by the aura of the talisman, it's not the same. A primordial Taoist talisman is formed by the cultivation level of an ancient great cultivator before they died. It seems an immortal once emerged from the Ji family. The Ji family doesn't receive the talisman. Instead, they created the primordial Taoist talisman. LV Batian's tone was filled with emotion, his eyes wandering as if contemplating something. Guan sighed without responding. Seeing his disinterest in further conversation, LV Batian decided not to disturb him any longer and took his leave. After LV Batian left the third Medicine Valley, Guan revealed a smile. He hummed a tune and began to read. Although Shen Tianyi was no longer in Supreme Sect, his books were occasionally sent back. Green Hero Travelogue was still being updated. Guan loved authors like this who stayed true to their roots. If Shen Tianyi wrote for 1,000 years, he would read for 1,000 years. Notably, Green Hero Travelogue was now about overseas lands, which had rapidly boosted its sales. Presently, Supreme Sect disciples increasingly longed for the ocean. Spring faded into summer, bringing another year of splendid scenery. Underneath the mystic pure tree, Guan leaned against its trunk, tenderly stroking the white spirit rat napping beside him. He closed his eyes, appearing to doze, but in fact, he was observing Xiaochuan's life. Xiaochuan had established a family and a career, settled in a city, living a relatively happy life, vastly different from his personality and image in Medicine Valley. He already had the air of a head of the household. Xiaochuan had a son and a daughter, and they'd hired many servants. Seeing that Xiaochuan was doing well, Guan felt at ease. After that, Guan turned his gaze toward the sea-breaking rift. Looking into the distance, the sea-breaking rift stretched long, spanning the ocean. Around the rift, one could always spot cultivators and demons venturing in and out, as well as living spirits or divine exotic resentful ghosts escaping, presenting a magnificent sight. It seemed calm, but this peace felt oppressive, like the onset of a storm. After watching for a while, Guan stood up, sensing someone approaching. Someone rode the clouds swiftly into Medicine Valley. It was Vice Sect leader Ji Hantian, followed by a finely dressed little girl. Guan hurried to greet them, casting a lifespan detection. Ji Xiaoyu, Energy Cultivation Realm 9th Layer 11/240/9999 Goodness. The extreme lifespan reached 9,999 years. The previous Ji Xiaoyu had an extreme lifespan of 8,900 years. Reborn into a new life, her extreme lifespan had increased. Could this be considered reincarnation cultivation? Ji Hantian saw Guan and smiled. When Guan approached, he spoke. I want you to look after her. She is Ji Xiaoyu, from a branch of the Ji family. Hearing this, Guan feigned a dazed look, gazing at the young Ji Xiaoyu. Ji Xiaoyu was only 11 years old, not yet reaching Ji Hantian's elbow. Her expression was calm, with eyes carrying a hint of age, reminding Guan of the previous Ji Xiaoyu's precocious maturity. Seeing Guan lost in thought, Ji Hantian explained, She just happens to have this name. LV Badian should have mentioned it. Let her cultivate in your medicine valley, and I will take her away later. Saying so, Ji Hantian turned and swiftly disappeared into the horizon. Guwen and Ji Xiaoyu stood on the grass, speechless, a subtle atmosphere prevailing. Just then, a figure appeared in front of Ji Xiaoyu. He squatted down to scrutinize her. It was none other than Nine-Finger Divine Lord. Chapter 265 Supreme Treasure Body. Dream of the previous life. Such a foundation. Rare, rare. The Nine-Finger Divine Lord looked at Ji Xiaoyu and marveled, clicking his tongue. Ji Xiaoyu slightly frowned, circled past the Nine-Finger Divine Lord, and came to Gu N's side, leaning against him, watching the Nine-Finger Divine Lord with vigilance. Guwen laughed and said, "Senior, don't scare the child." The Nine-Finger Divine Lord stood up, turned to look at Guwen, and sighed. "Guwen, this girl has extraordinary talent. You must draw her in while she is still young and build a good relationship. She might save your life in the future." Guwen nonchalantly said, "I never leave the Supreme Sect. What danger could I encounter?" "True." The Nine-Finger Divine Lord smiled and took another glance at Ji Xiaoyu before turning and leaving. Guwen looked at Ji Xiaoyu and laughed. "I am called Guwen. You can call me Valley Master from now on." Ji Xiaoyu gently nodded. Her gaze towards Guwen remained calm, as if she really did not remember Guwen. This made Guwen slightly regretful. In this life, Ji Xiaoyu was ultimately not the same person as in the past. Guwen took Ji Xiaoyu's little hand and walked towards the group of pavilions. Ji Xiaoyu's expression was slightly uneasy, but she did not break free. Afterward, Guwen arranged for Ji Xiaoyu to live with an Xian, asking an Xian to take care of her. He had his own motives. Ji Xiaoyu would sooner or later soar to great heights. If she formed a deep bond with an Xian, she could become a significant support for an Xian in the future. After all, an Xian was his disciple, and naturally, he would consider her well-being. It wasn't long before Guwen's door was knocked on, and a childish voice came from outside. "Valley Master, can I come in?" Guwen replied, "Come in." The door was pushed open, and the young Ji Xiaoyu walked in. She wore a white lotus dress, her hair neatly combed, resembling a little celestial maiden who had descended to earth. She came to the table, staring at Guwen, and said, "Valley Master, can I live alone?" Despite her childish voice, her tone and manner were mature and steady. "Why?" Guwen looked at her, smilingly asking. Ji Xiaoyu replied, "I like living alone, and I don't want to be disturbed while cultivating." Guwen thought for a moment, then said, "How about you live downstairs in my pavilion?" The pavilion he resided in had 2 floors. The first floor was for living quarters, and only he could live there. However, he usually stayed in the study on the second floor. Ji Xiaoyu hesitated for a moment, then slightly nodded. Guwen kindly smiled. "If you need anything, just let me know. Although my surname is Gu, I was also born into the Ji family." Ji Xiaoyu, curious, asked, "You were born into the Ji family?" After she closed the door, Guwen picked up the book on the table and continued reading. When night fell, he felt the presence of Ji Xiaoyu downstairs starting her qi absorption cultivation. He sensed the existence of a primordial Taoist talisman. The primordial Taoist talisman was still filled with incredible power, aiding Ji Xiaoyu in her cultivation. Guwen did not continuously observe Ji Xiaoyu and soon focused back on reading. Blue sea and sky, islands floating in the air, birds flying together, cultivators coming and going. On a floating island, palaces were situated, the interior bright with light, the ground as blue as the sea, glistening with light. And Hao sat cross-legged in the water pool, surrounded by mist, his black hair floating slightly, and a faint light emanated from his body, resembling a fire glow. A figure appeared out of thin air by the poolside, a man in a long robe with an immortal aura, holding a horsetail whisk. his white hair tied beneath a lotus crown, with 3 flying swords of different shapes floating behind him. Disciple, in the coming period, you must not leave the Star Sea congregations. I will be heading to the sea-breaking rift and do not know when I will return. The man in the long robe said. He had the title of Sage Fuchin, known as Sage Fuchin, and Hao's master in the Star Sea congregations. And Hao opened his eyes, looked at him, and frowned. Why can't I leave? I don't even have divine exotic city. Clearly, he was quite displeased with Li Ye being restricted. After all, he and Li Ye came from the supreme sect, practically old acquaintances, and seeing an acquaintance suffer, how could he be happy? Sage Fuchin shook his head and said, Your situation is different. Your trouble is greater. There is a divine, exotic, resentful ghost with an ancient treasure body in the sea-breaking rift. It was once a transcendent immortal and could traverse outer heaven. Named Impermanence Tion. Impermanence Tion plans to devour all treasure bodies in the world. He will inevitably target you, and his Tao level is stronger than a wandering immortal. Stronger than a wandering immortal. And Hao's face shifted slightly. Although he now understood the levels of the immortal path realm, the highest he could reach was the wandering immortal. Beyond that, it was a sect taboo not to be explored lightly. Sage Fuchin comforted. If you stay within the Star Sea congregations, he can't do anything to you, so do not venture out. Wait until all congregations eliminate the divine exotic resentful ghost at the bottom of the sea-breaking rift. And Hao nodded. He wouldn't tempt fate by trying to challenge Impermanence Tion's might. Though he might have great talent in terms of strength on this ocean, he knew he was still very weak, even considered a bottom-tier cultivator. Then, Sage Fuchin gave a few more reminders before leaving. And Hao raised his right hand, a wisp of flame emerging from his palm, condensing into a small sun.